At this point, I'd like to open the meeting of the Carver Conservation Commission for February 21st, 2018. Our order of business is as follows. We have some items for action, discussion, possible votes. Do we have any appointments? It looks like none. Is that correct, Brooke?
What's that?
Appointments, none, it says.
None.
Okay, so we won't have any appointments.
Okay.
Business items. Proposed vegetation management plan for Eversource for, this is for the power lines.
Yep,
For
the
clean-
power lines,
clean
the
and-
spraying of the power lines, yep.
Right,
And a lot of times they'll come to a meeting, but this time they're having just a separate meeting before they do it.
mm-hmm,
And usually they notify the towns before they come, so.
right.
It's a
Okay.
part of their 5-year plan for the, the herbicides on the power
Okay.
lines, yep.
So this is just a sort of a prepared meeting, and
Yeah.
then the actual, before each session, I guess we'll get another
Yeah, and
announcement.
they usually come to a meeting when they're getting
Yeah.
ready to start. I'll find out if they're gonna be,
They
usually
should.
will come.
Yeah, because we do want to let people have the
Right.
chance to run for their lives if they need
Right.
to.
We
Okay.
always get calls. What are they doing out there?
Okay. Second item, MDAR apiary program. Information available at the Conservation Office regarding the services being offered to beekeepers.
Yeah, they just notified Peg, and they're gonna send us some information about, for beekeepers, to keep, all the pollinators healthy,
Great.
and so
Great.
we'll have some information about
Yeah.
that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Is that just for beekeepers, or is are the handouts for everyone who
Yeah,
who
yeah.
wants to grow the
Yep.
pollinating plants?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's a serious problem. As you see more and more, the growers are finding ways to have their own bees or
yeah.
have permanent stations on
Yep.
their box. Okay, so that concludes those items of business. And we have the COC request, and that's for 53 Main Street, which we visited
Yeah.
today.
Which we looked at today, that was the horse, the stalls and the
Right.
paddocks, and yep. Yeah, and everything looked good.
That's the one I missed.
They did a good job.
Yeah. It looks very, very nice, Tim.
Yeah, the whole slope down to the wetlands is untouched, and they put hay along the edge just to keep it from eroding. They did a nice job.
I know if there was something wrong, you'd let me know about it.
We would. Did you see that one in the beginning when that first happened? I mean, you might not have been on the commission then.
I don't think
I think you did. Yeah.
Okay. And now we have reading of the minutes from
Yep.
last meeting.
I read most of it. Here we go.
Awful lot of sachet around here. Right, that's good.
There's nobody, no places. Yeah. I get Plymouth. And then I've been into the Plymouth one, I've been to Mary. And I've been to Brockton. They called me one time, it was less than 3 years.
good.
So, anyone see any need for corrections or changes?
No.
Nope,
Okay, so, motion
a
to,
fine job.
motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of February 7th, 2018, as written.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of February 7th, 2018 as written. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Pass unanimous. Okay. What? All right, now.
What's early?
Yes. Do we have anything else we can do in between?
Were you going to go to the MACC conference?
I was thinking about it, but I'm a little
Tim-
busy.
It's a week from
Yeah,
Saturday. Right.
yeah.
It's in Worcester, that's it.
Right, it's in Worcester at, it's not at Holy Cross, where it used to always be, I don't think.
Oh,
It's
is
at a
it
different.
oh, no, it is at Holy Cross.
It is? Oh.
Yep, Holy Cross, yep.
Maybe afterwards we'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Anybody else want to go up to Worcester to the MACC?
I think Tim's going to go.
Sorry?
Are you going to go to the Mass Association of Conservation Commission?
Oh, Mac?
Yeah.
I want to go to,
You had a couple
There are-
things you wanted to sign
there are
up
a couple things I want to go to see.
Right.
One's the, they got a new bylaws on docks, on lakes and docks. And the other one's invasive species. Like to go to both of them. There are different times during the day. I usually go to at least one a year,
Yeah,
but I think those would be the good ones.
Both of these are at 3 to 4:30.
both of those?
3 to 4:30, I don't have a problem with that.
Oh, okay.
But both, she's saying both are.
But they're both at...
Oh,
both-
then
at the same
are they
time.
both at the same time?
Yeah,
That's unusual.
I'll take the docks.
okay.
I think the docks are most important.
The vernal pool one's probably pretty
We've
good.
got so many docks going in around here now.
I know.
Yeah, right.
What, you get laughing about something?
I'm laughing about the vernal pool question.
Oh,
And
they got a vernal pool in?
there's one
I've
on.
been to a couple of those.
Protecting vernal pools.
Oh, we
They
have.
changed that vernal pool about every other year, it seems. Their definition of the vernal pool.
Well, there's, such a series of restrictions in it that a lot of people don't realize, and they're eager to say that there's a vernal pool on their neighbor's property without realizing it. They can't, unless the neighbor first brings it to
Right.
the attention and so on.
But if a property is surveyed, the
Right,
surveyor needs to identify it.
yes, that's right. A survey would need to identify it. But first of all, it has
That's
to be
when they
done with
covered up
the
where that happens.
acquiescence of the homeowner.
I heard there was one conservation commission that got in trouble. They went on someone's property and certified the vernal pool and didn't even ask permission. So then it got
But, yeah.
mapped.
Yeah.
The person's like, I didn't say you could do that. And they did it. It was weird.
Wasn't there a vernal
I think that- I would think
wasn't
that would
there a
make it
vernal pool
invalid.
up by the airport there, on that development that was going in up there? Wasn't there?
No, there was a question about it, but we decided it wasn't. It's just
Oh.
a,
that
it's
was
just
a
a
little
whole,
isolated thing.
yeah, very
Isolated land subject to flooding or something?
possible.
Yeah, it wasn't even that big, I don't think.
Yeah, no.
That was that little tiny thing, remember?
Oh, up across from the airport?
Yeah, in South Meadow.
Yeah, it's like the meteor crater.
Yeah, it looks
Meteor
like a
crater, is that
meteor.
what? A plot, somebody went out there and dug up some dirt one day
Yeah.
and just left the hole.
Looks that way.
But isn't that one on, at the school on South Meadow, isn't it? Was
Yes.
Didn't Sarah call that one a vernal pool?
Behind the school.
Kind of
Yes.
behind the school.
Yeah.
That it wasn't
Yeah,
aware of, I
I
don't
think
think.
she did, because remember when they were doing the septic? by it and,
Oh, yes, okay,
Remember?
okay, yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
now I
that.
remember.
yeah.
Yeah. Interesting,
I know, it's, I mean, it's right on the road. It's kind of,
yeah.
not really well protected.
We have to wait until 7:15, because it's a scheduled hearing, and
At least we
that
have
means
Then
that
we get
people are
serious.
notified and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'm kind of anxious to see what the
While we're
planning.
waiting, is there anywhere you would prefer the easel with the
Oh.
plan set up?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Get yourself prepped, no problem.
But is there a preference as to where you like to see the?
No,
Well, the public should see it as well as us, so I guess the angle you got it at right now.
yeah, actually, that is a good location.
Yeah, it's a good
See, that
location.
TV camera on that side can pick it up, and they can
Hold
then,
on the camera. Ian.
yes.
Which one's this?
Yeah, without the cameras in the past, we
This
had
is
a
the,
terrible
We were
time.
just talking about?
No, no, no.
Okay,
No,
I'll
there
give
was
you
a,
that.
the second site walk
That's the
today
one
was
that
at
we
the
had today.
airport. They're
Another one?
Oh, just stay there, old dog. Unbelievable. I must have put it there for safety.
Oh, this is different.
Because I think, because they did the expansion of the airport, I think.
Then
they
she
had
could,
one.
then she lost it.
So now they have the concrete will come to the.
all right, so this is where it is. This is the airport.
Yeah, that's it.
This is South Meadow.
Yep.
All right, so this is the north-south.
There's
this is the
different
east-west.
projects.
There could be planes flying right over there.
Well, there already are.
Not a house.
Are these maps the final ones you'd submit
No,
with
no.
this
No.
application? Are these maps the final ones you'd submit with
Yep,
this?
these are the ones that were in the
Well,
packet, yep.
They have to have color-coded lines on them for the 165-foot and wetlands lines, so on and so forth.
By other construction happening elsewhere.
They have to
We didn't
be,
color-code 'em.
there have to be
So we gotta cut down
color,
the trees for the sparrow.
okay, the 100-foot line has to be, what is it, green? And the 65-foot is,
Green, and then the 65.
This is,
get it.
this is all cut,
and then
It's on like
the wetland line is blue.
so.
It's, it's all in
the
our,
line's blue, so
Yeah.
we can get them colored.
yeah, it's all in our,
This is what's already cut.
our regulations.
Right on like those
clear.
checklists.
Yeah.
Selective
So
clearance.
just take one copy
Crosshatching.
and return it to us with the colors in.
Triangles.
And they're gonna,
Okay.
Existing wetlands.
Okay, well,
Oh, yeah, yeah, got it.
here.
another minute, and I'll start reading this.
Selective tree
description.
clearing area. Are they gonna mark the trees or just, like, okay, we'll take this off? Oh, okay. Buffer clearing.
I mean, they would just mark the area.
Who's this little squarey thing here?
That's this.
Oh, selective.
Yeah, select
Yeah.
clearing area.
Anytime you take down a forest, some stupid thing, we manage to screw it up. I don't like the idea at all, but if they have to do it, they have to do it.
Yeah, it didn't really seem, I mean, right along here, there's a.
I'll start reading the notice.
Okay.
Notice is hereby given in accordance with the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw that a public hearing will be held at 7:15 PM on Wednesday, February 21st, 2018, in Meeting Room 1, at the Carver Town Hall, to hear the notice of intent submitted by the Plymouth Airport Commission for the conversion of approximately 13.0 acres of shrub upland to grassland for the purpose of creating habitat for a protected grassland bird species. The proposed work will be within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland and an isolated vegetated wetland. The habitat creation will involve some selective tree cutting in the IVW and the 100-foot buffer zone, as shown on the submitted plans. The project is located 246 South Meadow Road, Carver, Mass., map 113, Lot A and A2. All interested parties are invited to attend. Copies of all plans, filings, and pertinent documents are available at the Carver Conservation Office.
Gonna cut this down without putting any
So,
numbers on. I'm just gonna cut it right to the
Why don't you guys
lines.
present yourself to the table here,
What
and
is the protection?
then we can just,
I see this.
Alyssa Jacobs, we're with Epsilon Associates, we're the environmental consultants for the airport.
And I'm Jeff Adler. I'm from Du Bois and King, and we're the engineers for the airport.
And we also have with us some airport representatives.
yes.
Any questions? Great, so we're here tonight to request an order of conditions for the grassland habitat creation project at the airport. The airport is proposing to do work in other parts of the airport that are impacting rare species habitat. And in this habitat plan has been developed in consultation with Natural Heritage. The entire airport is mapped habitat for upland grassland birds. So to provide mitigation for these impacts on other parts of the airport property, we've come up with this mitigation plan to create grassland habitat in the Carver portion of the airport. The airport's proposing to create a little over 13 acres of new habitat for these grassland bird species, and a portion of this work will occur within the 100-foot buffer zone to both bordering vegetated wetlands and isolated vegetated wetlands in Carver. Let me just orient the commission to project area.
I could see
So
it.
this is the airport, and this is the town line bisecting the airport, and the area that we're talking about is in the Carver portion. I'll just reiterate that the other projects that are proposed in other parts of the airport are all in upland areas, not in buffer. They're not in any jurisdictional areas under the Wetlands Protection Act. So this is South Meadow Road, and this is the Gate 6 access road to the airport. And so these, the grassland habitat creation area is proposed in proximity to, in this area, and these wetland resource areas. Wetland D is a BVW, and then wetlands A, E, and C are all isolated vegetated wetlands. And then two of these, A and E, would also be considered isolated land subject to flooding. These were flagged by Upsilon in 2016.
Okay.
So this somewhat rather busy plan is the proposed habitat creation area and the different types of tree clearing work that will occur. In order to create the grassland habitat, the trees are cut, the stumps are grubbed, the land is, if there's any humps or bumps, it's slightly smoothed out, and then it's seeded to create the grassland habitat. And this has been done in a couple other areas of the airport with some great success. And the airport has a resident, or a seasonal resident population of 3 different grassland species of birds. So
What are the species? Okay.
it's upland sandpiper, vesper sparrow, and grasshopper sparrow. So as I mentioned, this was developed in consultation with Natural Heritage, and we're currently going through the permitting process with Natural Heritage as well for these, for this mitigation plan. So this is the, try to make everyone can see, the Gate 6 access road, and that S curve. This is the BVW, and the isolated wetlands are here. And so we're proposing primarily along the BVW to leave that 100-foot buffer zone as scrub shrub habitat. There'll be some selective tree cutting, but the way the topography is, it dips pretty steeply down, so it wouldn't be beneficial to convert it into habitat anyway. It's not desirable habitat for the grassland birds. But what we can do is cut these trees to make sure that the grassland birds can have their wide open vistas that they like to see. And I'll also note this is some existing grassland mitigation area, so we're extending that on, this is north, so on the east side of it, and then creating additional areas. And these areas were all cut in 2002 as part of an obstruction removal. So basically all the trees were cut, and it's basically the regrowth since 2002 is what we'll be cutting again. So.
Yep.
So it's not really mature tall trees, they're maybe 20, 30 feet tall at most. And then, so there is some selective areas of buffer that we'll be converting to actual grassland habitat. This area is in an old abandoned cranberry bog. It was an upland bog, it's not a jurisdictional wetland bog. And so that will be converted. And then we'll also be doing some work within the buffer zone to the isolated vegetated wetlands. And we've left, in this one, we've left a 25-foot and we've left a 50-foot vegetative buffer with that scrub shrub habitat, so we're not cutting and grubbing to the wetland boundary. We'll also left a buffer along South Meadow Road, as well as the residential area to the south of the airport property. during the 2002 process, there was a berm created that was planted to provide visual screen to the airport, and that will be remaining. So appropriate erosion control will be installed at the 25-foot limits around this isolated wetland, as well as the existing operating cranberry bog on airport property. And any staging will occur in upland areas. So it's expected to take about 2 months at most for this to be implemented. The airport did it in 2016 on the Plymouth side of the property, and it came out very well.
But that's over here, see?
When do you plan to start this work?
Yeah, they're not gonna-
Well, initially, we were hoping to do it this year, but right now, the majority of the funding comes from the Federal Aviation Administration. And right now, the funding is a little bit in question. So although we'd like to think this year, it's probably right now, best to say it's probably going to happen next year.
Yeah. Okay. That, the map you were explaining from is quite a bit different than the ones we have here. I don't know whether we should have a copy of that also.
I think it's the
they're
same
same.
thing,
It's
only,
the identical
Same,
one.
I think it's just.
Oh, yours is a little different than the one I
okay,
have.
see. Okay, good enough.
Oh,
I didn't realize.
okay.
See, yes, mine is
I'm
different
sorry,
from what
this
this.
is,
yeah.
and then there's a proposed.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
There are two different ones there.
Okay.
Okay.
So which one are we working on?
This
here?
one,
This
the
is
one we have.
proposed.
The one we have? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ooh,
For this vote.
all right.
Yeah.
Good enough. So it's just as long as we have one that
Yeah.
actually
Yep.
goes with the project. Not a map of Kansas.
We did go out today.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and so
Yes.
we noticed that the trees were, we're like, oh, there's no big trees out here. So now we know, like, yep. And just out of curiosity,
Sure.
are there
Yeah.
certain grasses you have to
Yes.
seed it with? Okay, not
Yes.
just,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I
figured there's
included
probably
the
like a,
seed mix in here, yes. Everything we have to coordinate with Natural Heritage on.
Yeah.
Because the airport will get a conservation management permit
Oh,
for
okay.
those other projects, and this is part of the
Right,
mitigation
right. Oh,
package.
okay.
So similar to wetlands mitigation.
Yeah.
It's very
Yep.
in-depth. Yeah, the seed mix is, oh no, this one does not have the seed mix.
I've got to notice.
It's like low-growing clump
Yeah,
grass.
yeah.
You don't really want a dense herbaceous cover. You
Yeah.
want kind of like a 50% coverage. Then on page 6 and 7, I just have the acreages of the tree clearing in buffer. That will be new grassland habitat is approximately 2.84 acres. And then the selective cutting is around 7 acres.
Yeah.
Okay. Kim, do you have any questions?
Well, I have a couple little ones. I noticed that the straw is located in some of the area up in the top left here, but around these other areas, there's no protection.
Correct, because there's a 50-foot, a minimum 50-foot buffer left between the edge of the wetland boundary and the limits of like ground disturbance. And so I know under at least the NIPD's construction general permit, it's a 50-foot non-disturbance area is equivalent to using sediment and erosion control.
But I'm looking at if you look at the topo on this, you've got some very steep cuttings going through here, down through this bottom section. I don't see any protection for the wetlands. I'm just asking, I don't see any protection for the wetlands down there.
In which
And it's-
vicinity?
I know it's selective clearing, but I don't, you gotta do it, but I still wanna protect the wetlands a little bit down below.
So in this area, so this is the selective clearing is a 100-foot buffer. We're proposing to be either reaching in with equipment or using chainsaws. They're not really proposing any ground disturbance. They're gonna leave the cut stumps, and that's.
What are you gonna do with the old logs? You gonna take them off-site?
Yep, they'll be
Okay.
taken off-site,
Alright.
yep.
So you're saying you're not gonna go down there with,
Not with equipment, no.
okay,
Yeah, because of that steep slope.
Yeah.
thank you.
That was taken under consideration.
And the areas that you clear, they will pretty much mimic what the big grass area in the lower right, yeah, because we saw that today.
Yeah, we saw
Okay.
that.
That's the only question I had.
Yeah, I don't see anything
I had
else.
no questions either, so should we move to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion that we close the hearing on 246 South Meadow Road, DEP number SE 126-558.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to close the hearing on DEP SE 126-558. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Pass unanimous. Okay. And
So, and
We have
no-
any
oh, and-
comments?
do we, is there anybody, any abutters or anything that would have a comment on this? This gentleman? Yes.
Yeah, I want to know where the number 246 came from. 246 South Meadow Road.
Oh,
We don't know.
I'm not sure.
You guys presented.
I'm Tom Marr, the Plymouth Airport
Yes,
manager.
okay.
And for unfortunate reasons, the entire airport is designated as 246
Sorry,
South Meadow Road. It only has one address. It does lead to some slight confusion, to say the least.
Well, it's a mile from the airport, from the town line to my house is a mile, so 246 is a mile stretch.
It's all the same address.
Okay.
It's all the same address.
Yeah.
But different lots.
Right. What's the real reason to clear the land? Is the real reason for habitat for birds?
Yes.
How much land does these birds need to nest and live?
Well,
Well, I went on the Mass website,
Mm-hmm.
so I know from their website what they think the birds need for acreage.
well, it's not necessarily what the birds need, it's what Natural Heritage is requiring as mitigation
Well,
for the impacts elsewhere on the airport.
so what's the, so why is the figure on the Mass website, that doesn't mean anything? I mean, that's what the birds need to live in. So you're gonna clear this land, a little space of land, hoping that the birds are gonna live there, which they're probably not gonna, is what I'm saying. I mean, I read the whole website. It listed just how much land they expect these species to live on.
Well,
And you listed 3 species, and chances are only 2 species are gonna live there. The other one's not gonna. And one of them needs a minimum 75 acres. The other one needs no less than 25. That's off the website. I don't know what else to
Yes,
say.
the
But I'm
airport's-
saying, the land you want to clear is the same land that they wanted to clear when they did it before. And the trees in that wetland, they didn't cut, for whatever reason that they couldn't. And now it seems that now they're finally going to cut it. So, when they started, they cleared 19 acres. And now you're going to clear another 13 acres. So in other words, all these trees are going down. The little trees we got behind our houses are going down. Supposedly, for birds, that I hope it's probably going to be more like ducks, because there's a lot of water down there. When it rains heavy, we get a lot of water.
Well, to clarify, we're not cutting trees in the wetlands and we're leaving
What
a
trees you
buffer.
cutting?
The trees in the upland areas as well as in a portion of the buffer zone.
Where?
Why don't you refer to the
Show
map?
me, 'cause
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I'm lost, even though it's my neighborhood.
So is this your residence right here?
Where's South Meadow Road?
This is South Meadow
Right,
Road, this is the
I'm
airport
right there.
property.
Right. This has all been cleared on the last project.
Correct.
Correct.
This wasn't. I think this was left down by the fence. Tom knows as well as I do. And then the bog.
Okay, so this is the wetland. So this crosshatch here,
Yeah,
that's being left as tree,
yeah.
okay? And, or shrub. There's not a lot of larger trees in here,
Where, in here?
in this wetland here. That's all being left.
Yeah,
And then this is what's being cut around the wetlands, around
not this here. This is on, where's the road? This is the road?
this is the access road.
Okay, I know where we are. But so you're gonna hopefully clear this land to plant grass, to hope that birds are gonna come here. In other words, the family's used to a 7-room house, now you're gonna put them in a 2-room apartment and hope that they're gonna live there.
Well,
No, but seriously, that's what you're doing.
Well, to clarify, the airport actually has over 300 acres already of mapped grassland habitat.
337 acres, I think.
Yes, of mapped habitat, so we're expanding the existing mitigation areas that have proven to be very successful at attracting the desired species and supporting nesting pairs.
Is this land going to be maintained by the state?
It'll be,
Airport.
Suggestions?
it'll be maintained.
Grass burning? Grass burning?
No.
That's their top thing.
We've heard that.
Well, no, you didn't
Yes.
hear it, but I mean, that's what the state said.
Yes, so they,
So there's no
but
prohibited-
that's not a safe activity for the airport property, so. It'll be mowed. It'll be maintained by mowing,
That's it.
yes.
And we're gonna hope the birds are coming. Really?
We have all
They're already
three
there.
species already live on the airport. We see them every single
Yeah, but
year.
over, Tom, what I'm saying is, you're gonna clear 13 acres, just to, hopefully the birds live there. And all the suggestions from the state are saying, it's not enough land.
Is there a training program possibly being done to induce the birds to habitate more closely and, adjust to being city dwellers rather than country?
But I think the thing is that
They're
we
already
have more
there.
than 300 acres of grass. In turn, it's the total acreage
Right.
that becomes
Yes.
part of that 75-acre requirement.
Birds are already there.
So what we're doing is increasing the areas next to the already cleared area to give them
More.
a broader range. So there will be more than 75 acres
Right.
of open vista, et cetera. And we do have all three of those species that I see every single year.
Well, it's also mandated by the state to begin with, am I correct?
I was just going to say that, we've gone over this
Don't
with
have much
natural
of a choice
heritage,
but
and
the
they're the
states.
ones who basically say this area is acceptable and this area is not acceptable. So,
Right.
and it's very strict. I mean, they don't,
Mass Heritage
any
has gone
area,
through this, so-
right, any area that we define, they might say that's not a suitable area. This area, they've said this is suitable and will count towards the additional acres,
Okay.
so.
Sir, did you get all your answers you were looking for?
Oh, yeah. I don't agree with any of it, but, because I don't believe that that's the real reason. I don't know what the reason is, but I can't imagine to spend that kind of money and clear that little patch of land, hoping that birds are gonna go from here to there.
It's mandated by the state. They don't have any choice.
What's mandated by the state?
The-
Clearing this land?
Creation of the habitat.
Yes, absolutely. It's mandated by Heritage.
Then why is there a meeting?
I beg your pardon?
Why is there a meeting that somebody has? to-
Well, because what they're doing, they're presenting it to us to let us know what's going on, and we also have to make sure, as a Conservation Commission, that they protect the wetlands that are inside of it. It's important that, I'm not one for cutting the darn trees down, but it's mandated by the state, period. The issues I like to look at, and the rest of the commission likes to look at, is, are the wetlands that are inside of this protected? So not only do they cut the trees down, but they gotta make sure they protect our wetlands. Now, anything outside 100 feet, I have nothing to do with, none of the commission does. But anything within, yes, we have a lot to do with it. So we like to protect any of the wetlands that we have any say in at all. And this we have some say. They're still gonna cut, but how are they gonna cut will be directed by us. Did that answer your question, sir?
Some of it, but I don't,
I'm not gonna argue with you as to whether you like it or not. That's not,
no, I'm just saying,
we don't have a choice.
when the other night, right, I heard that when they cleared the other land,
Yeah.
that it was supposedly mandated by the state. The trees were too tall for the airplanes coming in or something.
No, that's
Well, I
a
further
different
looked
reason.
into that, and that wasn't mandated by the state, or even the FAA, to cut them trees next to the property.
Well, this is, and you're welcome to look it up.
So,
That's all I can say to you, sir.
That's what I'm saying, that this has to be done.
Yes, it does.
yes.
Okay.
So at this point,
Just
we have,
making sure the wetlands are safe, too.
is there anybody else that wants to be heard on this question? Okay, let's go for a vote, because we've already closed the hearing.
Close the hearing.
You want to do it? Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
All right, I will make a motion that we approve the NOA
Conditions, yep.
for 246 South Meadow Road, DEP number SE 126-558, based on the conditions set forth by the agent.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the NOI for DEP SE 126-558. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's passed unanimously.
We have such a big commission.
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Do you want to give this back to them, or do we keep it? Do you have one for file?
We should keep this one because this is the right one.
This is the right one.
Yeah, but it's got to
Okay.
got
There was
colored.
an existing one, I think I gave Jim the existing one by
Okay,
mistake.
well, you can give this. Well, one of these is the one that goes
You
in,
have to give
it's
it
got to be
one
colored.
color,
Yep.
Yeah.
Colored, colored, colored.
I gotta go way over here.
I'm sorry.
This guy's hogging
I
the
know.
place up.
There we- Oh, Lord. Okay. Makes the smile. Okay, so we're going to, we can go straight forward. Okay. Notice is hereby given, now wait a minute, in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw, that a public hearing will be held at 7:30 PM on Wednesday, February 21st, 2018, in Meeting Room 1 at the Carver Town Hall, to hear the notice of intent submitted by Edaville Land Holdings LLC for proposed improvements and upgrades to the existing parking lot. Portions of the work will be within the 100-foot and 65-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland and cranberry bog located on an abutting parcel of land. The work will require variance from the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw for the work within the 65-foot buffer. That project is located at 7 Pine Street, Carver, Mass., map 87, lot E-1-A. All interested parties are invited to attend. Copies of all plans, filings, and pertinent documents are available at the Conservation Commission office.
You do? Let me see, is this the...
Is this for me to keep safe?
Oh, yes, okay, yep. That's right, I was looking at for the other one. So this is, yep, that's one of the parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple pages. Thank you, sir.
We got 2 pages.
Sorry, what's this, changes? Oh, good, more color, all right.
We like color.
That's right.
Oh, my.
National Geographic style,
Oh,
okay.
my.
Oh, this really is good, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the same as what I got on my boards.
Okay.
Okay.
So.
You gotta get over there.
So she can follow along too.
Oh, good, thank you.
Stay there. Okay.
For the record, my name is Arthur Borden, representing Arthur Borden and Associates on behalf of Edaville Land Holdings. We have before you tonight a request for your review of the proposed upgrade and improvements to the Edaville parking lot. By way of vision, the overall scheme, you can see the cars. This is the existing parking lot. This is the block that we have in front of you for the solar array project. Part of the work for this parking lot does fall within the 100-foot buffer, and there's a little portion within the 65-foot buffer.
This is a 65-foot buffer.
Yep.
What portion's falling into it?
Here.
Oh, yeah.
We're presently working with the planning board also on this project, reviewing the configuration of the parking and the new stormwater system that will handle all of the runoff. Right now, it's a processed gravel type parking. There's no designated parking spaces. Edaville does employ staff to be out there to direct people to park. This is an upgrade that they're looking to do to kind of complete what the inside of the park they've brought up to, quite a standard. What they'd like to do now is to pave the parking lot so it's striped lanes, some lighting, some landscaping, and represents about half of the parking lot. The other half, going down Pine Street, is a separate watershed area. It has a very similar drainage system, but there's no buffer zones or wetlands involved for you people. This is strictly within the buffer zone of the old abandoned bog, as I said, that we're doing this, want to do the solar array on. In orange
They got these inside.
is an outline of the proposed underground infiltration system. It's a series of chambers that the first row is called an isolator row. It's wrapped completely in the Marafi cloth so that it catches all of the sediments that get into the system. This proposed to be 6 double catch basins with hoods and traps that connect by manholes to this underground system. So whatever falls on the parking lot now really doesn't run off. It eventually infiltrates into the ground through the processed gravel is there. What we're doing now is to, allowing it to sheet flow to these catch basins and still infiltrate into the ground. So we're making the surface impervious, but we're still putting the water back in the ground where it's going now. It's just right now there's no treatment for it. It just infiltrates through the parking. Now we'll be bringing it more up to stormwater standards where there's more than 80% TSS removal. Up in the far north corner, there's an area that I've highlighted in yellow. There's about 20 parking spaces there that fall within your 65-foot no-work buffer. We're looking for some consideration. We had an original layout with the planning board that had a certain number of parking spaces. In their review, they wanted to see some landscaped islands, which right now there's nothing. There's no defined islands or landscaping or anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to provide a defined entrance to the park with landscaped islands at designated each row with post lamps so that there's interior lighting. It's not on these plans. The entrance is here. It comes in and wraps around and up in here to the main entrance to the park. The original layout we had, we didn't plan on any landscaped islands. To accommodate what the planning board was looking for, we lost close to 30 parking spaces that we considered premium spaces because they were right, in direct path to the main entrance. So when we took those spaces out and did a little reconfiguration, we looked at if we could get up into that corner, at least get some of the parking back. And in looking at it a little bit further, we really don't have a space there to replicate a 65-foot buffer. But with the bog, we could kind of straighten out some of the edges, the bent edges there, and gain, for the 5,100 feet that we'd lose for the 65-foot buffer, we can gain 7,500 square feet of additional bog space, wetland space, that is probably, at least in my feeling, would be a little bit more valuable to the site, and not really harm anything. I got some smaller scale plans here to show you what it would look like.
I want to see that.
Did you talk to Arthur at all about the possible the canopy, solar panel canopy?
Oh, yeah, I see.
That was just brought up by the Why does it, I just, Stephen might
You can get 7,500 square feet if you want it that way.
Arthur, did anybody bring up with you the question of possibly using solar panels on canopies in the parking area? And that would eliminate some of your pressure to maximize them there, but it'd give you actually more panels too. But in addition, the pedestals that support them would also have a downspout that would run down and enable the water to be returned right at that point through the blacktop and into the ground at that. So you wouldn't need so much of the drainage, channels and so on and so forth. I know it's a thought. The school system in Plymouth is, I think Plymouth South High School has them in place, and it's something that you might want to possibly look
I
at.
can suggest it to John. I don't
Yeah.
know if he's focused on something like that.
So, okay, so this has more than,
So this would be more replication of the bog,
yeah,
to replace
right.
the area in the 65 foot.
And what we've tried to accomplish with the grading is a large area around this that would be, I think it's whatever the elevation, and then where the catch basins are, the catch basins we set down 6 inches below that. So basically, we're making a little ponding, not a little, but a good-sized ponding area there that will keep all the runoff on the property. Nothing will escape to the bog. In fact, that ponding area would be helpful if we would have back-to-back 100-year storm events, because it would provide for some additional storage while the water infiltrates into the ground. We've designed this infiltration system to the 100-year storm event so that, I mean, worst-case scenario, if we had something like that, the park wouldn't be open anyway, so if there was, a little pond in the parking lot, it's not going to bother anybody because there's not going to be anybody at the park anyways. As I say, that part of the project is under review by Fuss and O'Neill for the planning board's consultant. They're actively looking over the stormwater calculations and all that material that we submitted. So with that, I'll entertain any questions that you might have.
So they haven't completed their
Anything
review yet?
outside of this,
Plus,
we have no
they're still,
control.
I should hear from them tomorrow.
oh, okay.
You just forget that. So we're concerned about this and this.
We can, anything we decide on, we can make pending, depending on the planning board's decision.
Contingent on what the
Yes, yeah,
planning
good.
board comes up with, that you have to change the
Yeah, if something has to.
plans, or, yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about the filtration system and how it gets rid of motor oils and other things that would be on the surface of the concrete? Because this is a very large expanse
Well,
that's all
it's-
going to one place.
It's, those type of materials would be captured in the catch basins because of the deep sump
Okay,
hooded traps. So that will catch that. Sediments that escape that system, all of the runoff goes into this first isolator row. There's a O&M maintenance plan that needs to be checked back like once a year to get the sediments out of it. But that grabs whatever the catch basins don't grab and keeps it there. And then the rest of the, and actually it's designed with like a baffle at each end where the water comes in so that it sends that first flush, so to speak, directly to that infiltrator row, and then so that'll catch the sediments and everything. And then beyond that, the rest of the chambers there's like 5 or 6 rows of them aren't wrapped in that the overflow water will get to and filter and infiltrate into the ground. It's a recognized infiltration system. As I say, I think we calculated it to be about 84 or 85% TSS removal.
It's still not,
And again, it's to me, it's 100% improvement over what's there right now.
it is right here.
how many total spaces are in the parking lot when you include both what's here and the...
When you include the entire parking that we have on paper right now, it's a little under 1,100 parking spaces.
How many?
1,100.
Does that include the proposed part as well?
Well, that's
Well, that's what I'm
That's
saying,
everything.
but does it include this?
Well, that's everything.
That's including all of the spaces that we have on paper to be defined by lines and painting and,
Okay, thank you.
Right. The reason I asked is that, of the parking spaces that are in the 65-foot zone,
It's 18.
well, they're
1, 2,
8 and 6 is 14, 15, 16,
19,
17, 18. Yeah, so
About eight.
there are 20, and of those 20, 6 of them are just a fraction of the spaces is within it. But there are 14 of them that almost the entire,
It is. 1, 2, 3.
the entire parking spaces are within the 65 feet. And that is
15 of them.
14 parking spaces out of 1,100. Is it necessary to have them?
They were trying to maximize the number of parking spaces, especially for the Festival of Lights that they have at Christmas time, because they fill up what they have now. And this, again, gives it a way of defining where the spaces are and making the parking more efficient. And I say, if, you know, to be able to give that back, we could, as I said, we could offer, you know, rearranging the bog a little bit, and I'd be happy to prepare a letter requesting
Well,
that variance.
That's replication, but that
Yeah.
doesn't move an impervious surface where cars are parked any further away from the
Well,
existing bog.
that's true.
I'm just curious as to how important 14 spaces are in the whole scheme of things when you've got 1,100. It just seems to, and frankly, I understand that I see in the upper left-hand corner of your drawing, it looks like that's where the landscape islands, where the,
Yes.
so I can see losing spaces there is, you know,
Yeah.
there because it's right next to the main entrance. But the ones that are over here, they're almost as far away as the ones
Yeah.
out by Pine Street.
Yeah.
So they're going to be the last to fill, I would think, unless they're going to be
That's really
directed to there. And I was just wondering if the corporation would consider eliminating those 14 spaces. And just leaving that as it is.
Yeah, I can certainly ask them. I don't have any problem with that. I told them that, you know, I would present this, that I said, no, the commission doesn't like activity in the 65-foot no-work zone, but I said, I'll present it, you know, I'll offer an alternative and see what your thoughts are. If you don't particularly like the idea of the 14 spaces there, I'll take that back to them and we'll reconfigure that area.
It's less than 2% of the entire parking.
And the bylaw does specify impermeable
Yeah,
surfaces.
so
Yes.
it couldn't even be blacktop, it's gonna have to be impervious.
Well, unless we give a variance,
No,
but,
we're not-
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
but it just, you know, if it was 35 or 40 spaces, I would say, all right, you know, let's look at this. But we're talking about 14 spaces out of 1,100. And it's just, I don't know what kind of a difference that really is going to make. I would prefer to see it.
No, we have to weigh that against our wetlands.
Right, well, I
We
mean,
have to weigh
do you know what the
agree.
distance is from the closest parking space to the bog? It looks like it's probably 40 feet or even less.
Right in here.
Yeah.
This
That's,
this one right here.
that's,
Yeah, possibly even 30.
that's very close. And again, I worry about oils and everything. I do know that I see that it's within that 96-foot elevation of the oval, which is probably going to be banked down to
Right.
that 6 inches, but still, it's creating replication. I mean, replication is used when you're taking part of a wetland away and you have to replicate it, but putting, I
Pavement in where
like
they
the
replicate.
idea of replication, but it doesn't solve the problem of having an impervious surface so close to the existing bog.
Existing wetlands.
Right. Right, so I think that's a question that I have. How important is that? And it's something that,
And because if you remember, you know, the other project where they had paved within the 65 and we made them take it out.
Right.
Yes.
It isn't just that, it's that the fact that they're gonna turn around, they're gonna replicate in a wetlands, which if you take, probably cause more damage than good by what they're gonna do over here in the wetlands area, where they're gonna dig into it and make a wetlands. I know this, over my years, that when they do this for wetlands, most of the time it doesn't work anyhow. Replications just don't seem to work. I'm not thrilled about that either, digging right into the wetlands on both sides and all the way down. I can't go for that. Well, I'm not gonna
And
say.
that's been established as a wetland.
Yeah, it has. So, you're digging
So-
right up against it and into it, so.
Right. And I think you have a second, continued hearing tonight on the solar. Does the replication affect that at all?
No.
No? It
But
does.
what it does is squares this off, so they can
Right,
put
but does it
solar in
affect
there.
the access by the fire department that comes in off Eda Avenue?
I don't,
Probably wouldn't.
So,
I'd say no to that.
and so I think that's my one question. And when we did the site visit today, we had both the plan for the parking lot and the plan for the solar array
Yep.
on the bogs. And on the most recent solar array, you had the indication of where the new access to the power plant on the east side of the
Right.
bog. You've eliminated the long road from
Yep.
Pine Street, and that's not indicated here as
It's not even in there, no.
as where that, I mean,
Road is gonna
you're
be.
probably going to lose 2 spaces there, or maybe not, I don't know.
The new access from the lot.
Yeah. It's just that, the,
This plan was probably prior to that.
it may have been.
I think, yeah.
It may have been prior to the revision, so,
I thought I had that with me on this sheet, but I don't.
okay.
But yeah, it does lose 2 designated parking spaces for a fire lane.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but, and that's within the 100 feet, but I just wanted to make sure that, that
Yeah.
it's all there.
Yeah.
So, as far as I'm concerned, those 14 spots that are primarily entirely within the buffer zone, I would like to find out if they can,
We know what it is, whether, this is why they're here, is for this. So we either deny it
there's
or
also the
approve
100
it.
foot,
I
but-
mean, we can send it back to them and say, well, we don't think so. We either deny it or approve it.
well,
That's why they're here. So I don't want to continue, another continuance on this. I mean, we've hashed this all out, so I'd like to close the meeting and go to a vote.
Mr. Chairman, what do you feel regarding the fact that we know that this still has to go to planning?
I would continue it because of the
Okay.
fact that way we'll get planning's final word on it, hopefully, and then we can see, and whether, it could be that planning will say some things that will have a voice in our
What's-
decision.
Can I ask, Mr. Chairman, what's planning going to do about it? I mean, they're going to
Not
say,
necessarily
what?
that, but,
Yeah, but I mean, they're going to do all of this. It's up to us to decide this part, not the planning department.
Well, planning might decide that they don't need those parking slots over there. Planning could decide
I
that.
mean, that could be something you could talk to planning. In other words, like, that's your decision, the 65-foot.
Right.
And if
Right.
you say, no, you don't want the impervious surface, then the planning board would probably go along with that.
If I could, that's why we're here. In talking with the planner, he suggested that we get this out of the way along with the solar out of the way before we go forward with the planning board. He felt that, environmentally, you people came first.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And if you wanted to condition it that we take those 14 spaces out and give Brooke a revised plan, we can certainly do that, and then we go forward to the planning board with that revised plan, taking those spaces out. And I've told Stephen that that's may be what happens, that eventually when we get to you, we'll have a layout that's acceptable from this aspect, environmentally, and, if we lose, 14, 15 spaces, we do.
I
But-
think we should get off the dime right now.
Okay,
you know.
that's,
Yeah,
that's,
so I
right.
think that, like I said, that's your decision, so planning board
Okay.
would go along with it. I talked to Stephen about that.
and
Right.
actually, if
That's the
you,
indication I've got, is that whatever you folks are comfortable with, and we bring that to the planning board, then they're gonna be fine. They wanted to make sure you had the first crack at it and was satisfied with it, so.
okay, and it looks to me as though even you could, maybe at the end of that strip, outside of the 65-foot, you might be able to fit in a couple more
Going the other way.
going the other way right at the very
Right.
end.
Right.
We'll look at it and reconfigure it, and
Yeah.
take those
Okay.
spaces out.
All right, so,
So.
That's all, that's the only thing that I
Yeah.
have.
So, okay, so subject to that, we would move that we would strike out those parking
Yeah,
slots.
deny.
That's right.
Deny
Put that as
that.
a condition, and
Yeah.
then he'll go back to planning board, tell them that,
Okay.
and they'll,
Okay.
you know, from what Stephen said, they'll,
Yeah.
it's our decision.
The goal is to be able to go forward to the planning board with an order of conditions in hand from you people saying, this is what's acceptable to us. And then that takes a lot of the burden off of them. They can focus more on the rest of the parking with the layout and the plantings and the lighting and everything, knowing that the work within the buffer zone to the bog, that's, you know, you've said this is the way it's got to be. They're not going to turn around and say differently.
That's the way it ought to work.
Okay, then that's fine.
And maybe at that point, the planner might bring up the question about using the solar canopies in the parking lot. That the planning board could decide on. Okay.
All right.
So,
You want me to
we'll
close
close the
it?
hearing?
Are you going to have public input or not?
Yes,
Yeah, oh, yes,
please.
that's right.
We have people here.
We do
Yeah,
that.
come on.
Yeah, I'm not clear on so what is the decision that's being made? Is this being voted on?
Well,
or-
this is, yes, what we do is we close the meeting first, and then we take a vote on it.
So-
The vote would be to, as I understand it at this point, I could be wrong, the vote would be to accept the plans as drawn, except for the expansion of the parking lot into the 65-foot buffer. So basically what they're doing is they're looking, they've done a great job on the drainage. They've got a great drainage system here. It's all approved and all engineered to accept the water so it doesn't flow into the wetlands that's down below or to your backyards. And I presume that's what you're concerned about.
Right.
Okay.
That is my, yeah. that is
Okay,
my-
so what we're doing here is we're gonna stop them from putting parking closer in, or within the 65-foot wetlands area. So they can't add any parking there. They can keep the parking that they have, but what they're doing is they're adding huge drainage system to stop the water from leaving the property.
So I thought that you would have to vote on the proposed plan, either yes or no. You were making adjustments to their plan?
Yeah, we're gonna make adjustments to the plan for a vote. And what happens is, when you do an NOI, or notice of intent, the agent will tell the agent what we want in the acceptance of the notice of intent, and what we don't want in it. And like, we don't want, as I understand it now, the vote hasn't been taken, so I can't say anything more than that, but as I understand it, all of that parking that they want to put in within the 65, inside the 65-foot buffer will not be accepted by us. But what they're adding, and what's important to you, is they're adding all the way across. Have you looked at this? Do you know what we're talking about?
Well, I didn't there.
Well, do you see that orange section? Could you point that out, sir?
Right.
See that big orange section right there? The water's gonna be, if you look at the topo, it's like a foot to, it's not a shear, it's not a drop, it's a gradual shear, but that big area right there is their acceptance of their drainage area. So what'll happen is, it's all engineered, it's very well done, and what'll happen is that all that water comes down, it gets caught into these huge basins, and underground they have this huge system under the ground that accepts all the water from the parking lot, and it has cleaning stuff, and so you don't have to worry about oils or anything else going through.
Into the groundwater, yeah.
It's groundwater coverage.
So it cleans
Did I
the
say that
groundwater.
all right?
Well,
Cleans the
this
groundwater.
is proposed to be built.
That is
Yes.
proposed to be built on their property, outside the 100-foot buffer, which, by the way, if it's outside the 100-foot buffer, we have no control over it. I'm just telling you what they're gonna do. They have a little piece over here that's in the buffer area, but it's nothing to
It's
speak.
gonna be covered over.
It's gonna be covered over anyhow. So I think this is a large improvement to what you have now.
And that's also what the planning board, that's what the consultant does for the
Yeah,
planning board, is they
that-
review
that's
the
what these-
whole
These engineers did a great job on this. I mean,
I just have, today I found the video from the 12/12 planning board meeting. And during that meeting, I don't know his name, the owner,
yeah, that's all right, keep going.
John, okay. He stated that he purchased that adjacent property for the purpose of surface water runoff. That's what he stated during that meeting in the planning board.
Well, all I can do is tell you what they've got here for our approval. And our approval does not show any water runoff into wetlands or anything else. It shows a well-engineered system that'll accept all of that water. It's right here in black and white. It's all engineered. It's all set to go. And it's a heck of a lot better than what you got now. Because all it does now is just kind of, they say it's impervious, so it goes, in, you know and I know, when it rains like heck, it doesn't go directly into the ground. This here, when the water comes down, it's going to be caught.
We have,
No, and this is yesterday.
We were there today.
Oh, we were there, yeah.
This is yesterday. Whoops.
Is that the bog?
This
Is that
this
the lot or the bog?
This is the bog.
Oh, it's a bog.
right.
This
Yeah,
is,
we were
very
there
wet.
today.
We were there today. It was flooded.
Yeah.
That's coming up next.
Okay.
That's coming up
That's the
next.
bug.
Well, you mentioned the water.
Yeah, the water stops here. See, here's the parking lot,
Right.
right? Okay, see this thing right here? That is
It's an interceptor.
this right here. Okay? It's one huge system. Now, that water coming down is going to be caught into that system. Let me open. It's going to be, all of this water coming down is going to be caught into this system, not allowing it to go into the wetlands.
But it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, it'll go, it's a catch basin. Oh, sorry,
Okay.
go ahead. You explained a little.
If you see this dotted line here that has the 96 on it, that goes around in a circle, that is an elevation. So it's 96 feet on the outside of this, and these are the catch basins, which are going to be 6 inches lower, so 95 and a half feet. So all of the water that comes down here is going to collect in a V right along these catch basins and go into the filtration system, and then after it's all cleaned and it's pure water, goes back into the ground. Underneath.
It'll sift itself straight down. It's not going to go here and then go over to your yards.
Well, if there's enough water,
Well, it's going to be a lot of water. There's no doubt what's the wetlands is right here.
It gets caught
But
by
it's
the
going
water.
to, it's going to be, you know,
It's already.
it's better off, it's a much better situation there than what you have now. I'll tell you that.
is there flooding in the lots on that side of Rochester Road at this point? Is there flooding in them? Those lots that would be
These lots
Celia
here.
and
The
Tuffin.
one
On the other
that
side of
shows-
Pine
It's
Street.
very wet. I walked back there yesterday to
Right.
take these pictures, and I had to have the
Who's-
Is that-
because it was very wet.
May I see them, please?
Sure.
Is that
Thank you.
these bogs, or is it behind here?
I
Or is it-
walked directly back.
Okay,
it's these
yeah,
right here.
yeah, that's what we saw today.
Yeah.
But we have the continued hearing for the solar,
Right,
which is on
right.
top of the bog, and that's tonight
Right.
as well.
Well, both are concerned. I'm concerned about both the
Right.
paving and the solar array.
Well, we're going to do, they have a right to do that because it's actually outside the.
So you're only concerned,
Anything, see this green line?
Within the green line.
Anything inside of that. So we have this little corner here.
Okay,
I think they've done a heck of a job engineering it, to be honest with you. I really do.
okay. So your only purpose tonight is the parking?
See this? They want to add this parking
On
right
this,
here.
in this hearing,
Just
they-
this
Just this
small
part of
piece of
the
the
Yeah.
property.
That's
Right,
it.
right.
And then we're going to go into the other part you're more concerned about.
Okay,
Okay?
all right.
gentleman
All
back
right.
here.
So,
The only question I had, is this already been looked at and approved by Carson O'Neill, this drainage system?
It is in,
We're
yes,
doing it right now.
Signed off on it?
yeah.
Well, they haven't signed off.
They haven't
They're
signed
still
off.
reviewing. Yeah.
They're working on
When
it.
I spoke with one of their engineers, they said this drainage system was completely inadequate. So has this been modified
It's been absolutely modified 100%.
from the last?
Yes.
When is that planning board hearing coming up, Arthur?
There's one next week.
Okay, so that's the time when you have to place that question.
Actually, it's downstairs because the
Anything-
selectmen are up here.
Yeah.
anything to do with the wetlands we take care of. As far as engineering of this stuff, we see a stamp, and
You're making
I'm a re-
reference to drainage under the ground, and I'll tell you something, I live on Pine Street, I live across the street. There is no drainage under the ground. It's a dirt parking lot now that the water doesn't go away. When it rains heavy, it comes across the sidewalk, down Pine Street, and in my driveway. Every drop of water comes in my driveway and destroys my property.
Can I say this,
It's been
sir?
for 5 years.
Sir, can I say this? With all due respect, it's not that we don't care about that, but we have no
Jurisdiction.
That's fine.
jurisdiction. We have no jurisdiction over that at all. That's all planning board.
Just so you guys know.
Our jurisdiction,
Yes.
we know the area, we've been there 100 times. But our jurisdiction's in this area down here, not over here. If it's outside the wetlands, sir, I'm sorry, we have
No,
nothing to
that's
do.
fine.
Okay, thank you.
But that is a question that you should raise.
Yeah,
at
you
that
should
planning board
raise it,
hearing.
absolutely.
I've been to planning with it, I'll bring it back to plan. I just want to make sure we didn't miss
Yeah.
something where I got
No, no.
told, oh, you should have brought that up at conservation.
No, no.
In my view,
The
this actually,
conservation stuff, we're bringing up right now, and we're not gonna continue, we're gonna finish it.
I'm not the arbiter on it, but in my opinion, what this is proposed should improve your lot because it will capture the water and drop it down in. However, Fuss and O'Neill would know better on that.
Yeah.
All right, I would like, is everybody, sir, please.
Yeah, I had a question. You said, Mr. Borden, that the system's supposed to be designed for a 100-year storm?
Yes.
So, back-to-back storms? So if there is overflow out of the system, where's the overflow go?
There's no overflow from the system. It's all infiltrated in the ground. If we had back-to-back storms, that ponding area and the parking area above the catch basins would serve to
They have a rim
capture
going
that.
around it, sir.
Because I haven't seen
No, I'd be
it.
glad to show it to you, it's right here, if you'd like to see it.
So it's all gonna stay within the parking lot? It's
Yes.
not gonna go anywhere else?
Nope.
That's the intent?
That's the way it's engineered.
Nope.
That's all. Just wanted clarification.
But if you have any more questions with reference to that outside the 100, after the 100-foot, please go to the planning meeting.
No, that's fine.
We'd be glad to do whatever we can to help you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
So, I've never been an advocate to fight Mr. John, I'm just gonna say John, because his last name's hard to, announce. Anytime that I personally had a problem, in the beginning, I went to him and I said, okay, these are the issues, these are what the neighborhood is complaining about. We've gone to, we've had neighborhood meetings, and once the the construction of Thomas Lane has gone up, the drainage has been horrendous. My backyard is a complete mosh pit, all mud. I've lived there 20 years. Even in the drought 2 years ago, my backyard was complete mud. I've tried to reach out to John. She has reached out to Brenda and asked if we could, again, once talk to the engineer. Could we have an engineer come and look at our property along with Mrs. Gonzalez, along with her, because she's on one end and I'm on the other side, closer to Allen.
That would,
This drainage thing is out of control. It is not.
what you can do, ma'am, is go to the planning board with that. And the reason I'm saying that is because it's not in the wetlands. Your land is not in the wetlands. We can't address it.
Well, theoretically,
Okay,
my
but-
land is,
If your land is in the
and
is
your backyard is also.
is it designated wetlands?
Into the wetlands.
I don't see it designated wetlands here.
Well, we don't have maps that show that.
We don't show their homes.
Yeah, we don't show their homes.
Okay.
And they also.
No, their property is further down Pine Street from this, they're where the other,
Second entrance.
they're where the other infiltration system's gonna be.
So they're way outside.
Okay.
It's-
Through our
Well,
property, like the actual rivers going through our property, and we haven't heard anything. And like I said, I've always dealt with John directly, and he's always said, okay, we'll do X, Y, and Z, but now he's untouchable and doesn't answer any of our phone calls, so.
You should come to that planning board meeting
Yeah, you
next
really
week.
should. You should be
and
there.
Raise those questions.
You should be there because they'll listen.
Write a letter, okay.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
don't
Talk to your
just write a
friends
letter,
who then
be
can
there.
appear for you.
Because
Well,
when
I
they,
have to tour my daughter's college next week, so.
oh, okay.
I'll be out of town in North Carolina.
If
so
she writes a letter, it'll
unfortunately-
be submitted in red.
If somebody would read it for her.
She
We
can't
we
read it.
can't, or they would read it, I would,
Read it into the
I don't know
minutes.
how that would work, because that's a planning board. I shouldn't even be going there.
I believe if you present it to them, they will include it in the minutes.
Into the minutes.
That's the whole thing.
But as a personal request of the engineer, because he has dealt with us in the
Right.
Can they have someone come out and look at her property and my property and determine how bad the
Good
flooding
question.
is?
There's another thing you can do, ma'am. You can, and I know you don't want to spend any money, but you can hire your own wetlands engineer, and they,
What does that cost me?
well, no, it'll run you, I don't know, $1,500, whatever it costs him, but he'll flag it for you. He'll flag your wetlands.
No,
Well, not
private, no, you get a
not
private
just
wetlands
wetlands.
engineer.
She just
Yeah.
has drainage
Fine.
problems, so she'd probably
Yeah.
rather have an engineer, I
Civil,
would
yeah.
say.
You need a,
I've never had
Doesn't sound like it's
problems until
wetland.
they built Thomas
I would,
Land,
I would
and now
flag the
they're
wetlands
worried
first.
I don't think she has wetlands, though.
John Woods is well aware of this. Dick Ward's been down there. The town engineer has been down there. This is not anything, this is coming as no surprise to anyone that's in any position in this town to deal with it. John Woods has been promising to fix the problem on Pine Street for 5 years. We're first on the list every single year, and it never gets done.
I know there was,
So,
yeah,
we don't need an engineer because everybody knows where all the water's going, and Borden's well aware of it, and John Delaperso is well aware of it, and Brenda's well aware of it, and everybody's well aware of it. So for somebody to sit back and say, geez, we don't know what you're talking about, that's an absolute mistruth.
You gotta
see,
go to the planning board.
we're unaware of it.
Really
Yes,
should.
but because it's
Yeah.
never been a conservation commission.
Right.
issue.
Right.
So this is,
And
you
it's
have to
not
come
real.
to the planning board
It's the planning board's
to
issue. I
put that
just wanna
into the
make sure I
public
wasn't
view.
missing something
Yes.
by skipping out on a conservation hearing, to be told by planning, geez, you should have been at a conservation hearing and we could have done this.
Because we do own wetlands.
Sir, what we're gonna do here is we're going to take a vote on this section here,
Which has
okay?
nothing to do with us.
And then
Right.
we're gonna bring up the next meeting. So let's get this thing closed first, and then we're gonna go to the passive solar thing.
Our mentioning of the drainage system was to allay fears that the water was going to come off this newly paved surface and go into the bog and the wetlands adjacent to it.
What happens when it doesn't work?
That's,
Well, it's not working now.
Yeah, it's-
More steps
it's
have to be
nothing
taken
now.
then, yeah. If
Okay,
it doesn't
so
work,
There is recourse, is what
yeah,
you're saying.
you just,
So if we find out 6 months from now, like this gentleman said, the 100-year storm, or what if it's the 10-minute storm and it doesn't work, and it's, oops, we screwed up.
No, you go right to-
We got parking lot and fix this.
you can go right to the town.
Yeah,
They-
right?
You know,
Well,
necessarily,
you go to-
you come to the Board of Selectmen, and you say, I need to have something done, my property's being
I'm
damaged.
surprised you people haven't walked into the Board of Selectmen with
But
this.
it's okay. We'll,
But,
I've talked to John over the years, and, he's done an amazing job with the parking lot and with the shrubbery.
I'm just saying, you want recourse, start with the Selectmen. I mean, they meet here, talk to them. That's what they're here for.
that's right.
That's what you voted for.
When you squeak loud enough,
Well,
they'll,
he's been speaking.
All right, so, anybody have any new questions?
on our issue, which is
No
the,
more new
Okay,
questions?
so
okay,
our issues are done.
right, so we're gonna close the hearing on the,
Close it.
On Pine Street?
yeah, no,
Pine Street, yeah.
7 Pine Street, okay.
Yeah.
126,
I
559.
I propose before the board that we close the meeting on 7 Pine Street, DEP number SE 126559.
And second.
I will second that.
Been moved and seconded to close the hearing on DEP SE 126-559. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's passed unanimously.
All right.
Okay, now, at this point,
All right.
So I didn't write up any conditions, but now we'll.
We're gonna have to write conditions on
Include
this.
the, getting rid of
Right.
the 14 spaces or
Right.
the impervious surface within the 65.
So.
Well, it's the 14 spaces
Yeah,
because
14
they're
spaces,
actually
yeah.
20, but 6 of them are
Yeah, we just-
minimal
Yeah.
effect.
No work inside,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
So-
that's the only condition that we're at.
that's
at
the
this
main
point,
one, yep.
yeah.
And then, I don't really, we really didn't have
Well,
erosion
let's-
controls or anything. I mean, most of, like, say, most of it's out.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Rest
Let's
of the
take a
parking's
vote
outside.
on this, and let me tell you what I'm thinking, and if you don't
And then
like it, we
could
can
add
change
any
it. We can change it.
conditions, that the planning
Um,
board has regarding, like, the stormwater system or something.
I would like the
Something that-
commission to, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No, I
off.
was gonna say, we could add any
Yeah, yeah,
conditions
right.
once the planning board approves it, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
to-
with exception
About the
too,
stormwater.
for sure.
Yeah.
So let's go,
So we're going to just
I
continue
propose-
this until after the planning board?
No, we're going to
No, we're
vote.
gonna-
No,
oh,
we
okay.
can close this, yep.
I would like to
Okay.
propose before the commission on 7 Pine Street, DEP number SE 126559, that we accept the drawings as proposed, with exception to the pavement.
The 14 spaces that are fully,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
These are
6,
fine.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15,
14.
16.
No.
There, it's inside, 16.
yeah, but minimally.
Yeah,
I'm thinking these 14.
yeah.
We'll reconfigure it so it's
With
out of the
exceptions to the,
65.
we'll just put it this way.
About 14
With
spaces.
exceptions to the spaces located within the 65-foot, which is not acceptable by the commission.
Yep,
Okay. So that's the
Does that
condition?
sound good?
yep. And then we
I
can
need,
add
I need a
anything else
second on
after.
that then.
Yep.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, we have a vote and a second.
right. Motion and a second, yeah.
A motion and a second. What did I say?
Vote.
Oh, good. You want to vote?
And Brooke is sure about what we've settled on, right?
Yep.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the
To issue the order of
the
conditions.
issue
with
and order of conditions, yeah, with
Special conditions.
with conditions as far as altering some of the parking, removing some of the parking slots. So that's really the only condition. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That's passed unanimous. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the fun one.
So,
then.
Brooke, on the conditions, there's also any kind of wattle or whatever?
Did you have straw wattles along the edge?
No, I didn't show any because the way it was going to be graded, I didn't anticipate
The
anything
grade
going
was going the
off-site.
other way, because you have that kind of the little island in between.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right, I just didn't, I wasn't on here, so.
yeah. Okay,
We could certainly do something temporary if
Yeah.
a problem arose. I mean, that's not a,
okay.
Okay, so
And like I
we're
said,
good.
we'll add conditions once the planning board makes their
Yeah.
decision, we can add
With,
stuff.
it- with added conditions according to the
Yeah.
planning board.
Yeah.
Put
Right.
that in the minutes also, please.
Yeah,
With added conditions according to the planning board.
Makes it small.
yeah. Here you go. I'll let you
Does that
sign
work for you? Yeah. She's too busy typing. With added conditions according to the planning board.
Yeah, according to what the planning
There you
board
go.
says.
Thank you.
Because they have a meeting next week, so we won't know what theirs. How's that sound? Makes
One
sense?
down.
Okay. So now we move into our continued hearings, of which the first one, 14 Andrews Point Road, has been
That's
continued
been-
again.
Continued again, yep.
Yes, okay. And do we have a date till just next?
No, he's still talking with the
Open.
builder.
Okay.
So he's just gonna keep me updated.
Okay, open continuance. And then we're back to 0 Rochester Road. And this is the continuance, so I don't have to freeze the hearing notice again. And this is on for the solar array.
The pond.
And so,
House away from the-
That's right. Oh, Westchester Road, got it. Yes.
spread those legs.
Arthur Borden again for Edaville Land Holdings LLC. I think at the last hearing, we had two outstanding issues. One was a farm plan, which they have reached out to someone to write. It will take a little bit of time. We would consider that as a special condition maybe to the order that we would provide it for your review
Any order of conditions?
in the order. And the other was the harvesting of the vines. We're suggesting to Edaville that we do not more than 500 square feet of bog area to start. There's about 3 acres of bog between the two surfaces, but just to get an idea on how it's going to go selling the vines, that we limit it to not more than 500 feet for at least the first couple of years. That's easy enough to transplant or replace if we needed to. And other than that, there's been no changes to the plan. We did stake the accesses for you and where the replication area is going to be
Yep.
We saw that.
for you to look at.
Now, may I ask a question? Who's going to weed this and fertilize it, and how are you going to do that?
That-
With How are you going to weed and fertilize this with the passive solar on top of it?
The panels will be set up probably like 4 or 5 feet, very similar to the paddock bog over here, where you could get a hand machine. The panels are
gotta get in there.
the aisles are 18 feet apart.
I understand that.
And then there's room to get something in it, either in the front or the back. I'm assuming that would be described in the farm plan, because that would be their problem to manage the bog area.
Yeah.
So do they currently have a farm plan, or he's,
No,
they don't have a
they have
farm
reached
plan.
out to, Brenda has reached out to somebody that's knowledgeable and can write that for them. She
CA or
did
something.
indicate that it would probably be about a month before they had it in hand. That's why I'm suggesting that we,
Yeah.
consider that as a special condition that, as soon as, we've got a ways to go with this project too. I mean, it still is, it's evolving. We need your blessing to really go forward to the planning board again. And, talking with Steve, and that was his suggestion, is he get the environmental stuff out of the way, and then that just eliminates items for the planning board, puts things kind of out of their spectrum. If the Conservation Commission says, yes, this is acceptable to us, with the sonotubes to hold the panels up and the replication area to make it work, and the access, fire department's fine with the 2 access areas. The gates will have the typical Carver lock on them.
Actually, the sonotubes might not be the best answer for this. The paddock bog has aluminum posts that were set in, 4x4 inch aluminum post, and sonotubes.
Well, as I explained last time, it has to be looked at by a structural engineer before. So we're assuming worst-case scenario that we put the sonotubes in. The number of tubes, there'd be a loss of about 1,500 square feet, and we're providing 6,300 feet of replication. If after the structural engineer comes back and says, no, you don't need the sonotubes, that the galvanized posts or whatever will be satisfactory, we can come back to you for a modification on that. We'd still give you the replication area because it's easy enough to do with the equipment that John has.
so the post would be less?
Yes. Yeah.
Square footage.
Right.
But the question is whether, without that farm plan and without the sort of finished part, whether we could actually sign off on this, whether we have to continue until we get that.
I don't think we could sign off without a farm plan. I really don't.
Well, because the justification for, allowing the paddock bog was that he was...
He was in use. That's right. He
It
was
was already in
exactly, and it was going to continue in use. That's the big thing. But this is unfortunately gone into a abandoned status, so it needs to have a new farm
So it's
plan
going
drawn
to
up.
start to be active, but
Yes.
not really, isn't, yeah.
Well, it's going to be active as a type of agricultural item, but that should be a requirement that we have that included. So
That's what I'm suggesting, is that, to be able to move the project along to the planning board, in order conditions from you folks with a special condition that, you get an acceptable farm plan, and by the time we get, partway in with the planning board process, we'll have that to present to you for review, and instead of, continuing this, which will put off the planning board action on it, because again, Stevens indicated he'd like to see, action from this commission first, just so that there's less things for the planning board to get involved in.
Yeah, because they have other issues, they have setback issues and things that don't.
Could we actually
you could...
accept this with that as part of the...
Yep, we could put it, contingent on getting the
Yes.
farm plan
And if it doesn't come through, then what?
Well,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
again, if that's a special condition, we can't build it without it.
Right, right.
Up to an approved.
Right, it would have to be,
There's so much more than just a farm plan.
an approved and accepted plan.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you still have, the issues of the DEP policy thing.
Right,
So,
the
I
DEP
mean, that could-
policy and so on and so forth.
Well, and also there was something else that we went out today and for the site visit, and both the smaller and the larger bog were almost flooded.
Yeah,
And
water was extremely high.
very, very high, and the question that that came up today, because the last time we looked at it, it wasn't that high. The question that came to my mind today was, how are they going to get in there to, we put either sonotubes or these things on what basically is
Water.
water,
Yeah,
without completely damaging
everything underneath.
everything there. When Mr. Paddock did his, the ground was still
Right.
fairly firm, and he
Yep.
was able to put, I believe, plywood down.
Yes.
And run his machines over that. You can't do that here today with the shape of those.
Well, again, that would be a matter of construction sequencing and paying attention to the weather. Most likely, I would think they wouldn't start this till sometime, mid to late summer when conditions are dry and you don't get rain every other day.
Well, there didn't seem to be any water movement.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that today. We're thinking maybe if, like, say if you get your
yeah.
farm plan, if that would include, maybe
Drainage.
cleaning out the flumes,
The
you know what I
culverts
mean,
and
stuff
such.
Yeah,
like that.
okay.
So that it would be easier to maintain it as an active bog. In other words, it's kind of like, looks like stuff is stuck
Right.
in there now.
Right, and even on the,
So maybe that would be part of the farm plan.
Yeah, that's probably part of the problem, is that where nothing's been maintained out there for so long, the flumes are somewhat clogged, and maybe the
Saw
pipe
that,
under
yeah.
Pine Street is somewhat
No one's
clogged.
gonna-
Well,
yeah,
like
even
Pine
on the
Street.
other side of Pine Street,
Yeah.
there was no water movement. There was a leaf on top of the water, and it was just sitting there.
So those are probably all clogged up, and that's just why it backs up into the bog.
So I think there are a lot of
I
questions.
think there's just water on both sides, period. It's not moving. It's like a pond.
Yeah, it
It
says,
moved at some point because it was,
It probably saturates into the ground sooner or later.
this is why I'm kind of a little hesitant. It's not just a minor problem, it's kind
It's
of
a
a
major
major.
problem.
I feel the same way.
So,
I'm not really hep on this thing, I'll tell you. I know you like that passive solar, Jim, but damn.
well, what I like is for the human race to continue to live on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And that's what solar's all about. Okay, that's what it's all about.
They're talking
We
about going to
can't
Mars,
keep
though.
burning coal and oil.
They're talking about going to Mars, Jim.
If you want to leave, I'll hold the door for you.
I don't know, I'm concerned about, I'd like to find out more about the plan on how to install them.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Based on the
There's-
current
There's no
condition of those
installation
bogs.
stuff
Yeah.
on this, there's nothing here at all about how it's gonna be installed. I'd like to hear from the public, see what they have to say about it.
Okay, we have some other questions.
Hi, I'm Melinda Tuffy. I'm 1 Pine Street, so
Right,
I'm
right
directly
across the road.
abutting the bog. The drainage that you saw today, or lack of drainage, is a yearly problem. Every winter and spring, this is what we have. We have had, floods in our basements when it's a lot of rain. I have major concerns with the solar array. All the research that I've read up on says, that one of the biggest problems is the displacement of the water on the wetlands and where does it go? And even, I know there was, I believe, a bog down in New Bedford, maybe that had gotten approval for this, and then they started the construction on it, and even just the trucks going in to put the solar arrays in caused so much damage to the surrounding neighborhood for pollution of like the truck oils and flooding that they had to cease operation. This was a couple of years ago.
The construction can compress the ground.
Yes,
I understand that.
it's quite possible, yeah.
Water dispersal.
Now, this flooding problem that you have, is your yard, is there water on the surface of the yard at all?
There is, we've had water, yes, and we've had water in our basement, in our finished basement. Our land that abuts it, we've created kind of like mounds.
A berm?
Berm.
Yeah, so that they can't come over.
Walkout basement, correct? Not even an underground basement.
No, we have a walk down basement. And I know my neighbors have had the same problem, but the water that is there that you saw today is something that is there every year. This is not we got a lot of water, got a lot of rainstorm.
Mm-hmm.
This is a wetlands, there's no doubt about it. I mean,
Yeah.
some bogs here considered wetlands, some are uplands. This is definitely a wetlands bog. So,
On the other end of Pine Street, there was a house that was built, and the level of the foundation was right at the wetland line. And every year, this house floods, and he came to us upset about that. But we could not find that there was any problem other than the fact that he had built in land that was just too low. And now,
I don't think that's a problem here.
No.
hopefully it's not, but there's a lot of Carver where this occurs. The Great Meadow development is notorious for that. Sometimes in a heavy storm, they'll have 3 and 4 feet of water standing in their basements.
Has this happened every year that you've lived there? Or you said the last 5 years?
We don't get flooded out every year, no, but the bog does.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, since you've lived there, so it's not something that's happened over the last 5 years and wasn't happening, say, 10 years ago?
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Again, Nancy Gonzalez, I'm at 40 Rochester Road, across the street. So, yeah, I was doing some research, and I found this presentation from, it's a MACC Annual Environmental Conference from 2015.
Mac, yep.
Where they, talking about solar arrays, permitting issues, and what to consider. And the first concern is to site solar arrays outside of wetlands. So this is recommendation by the DEP. Also,
No, it's recommendation by Mac.
Well, this was a course that Matt gave on DEPs.
Right. There's also the DEP policies
Yeah.
that were just
Right.
issued, which are probably based on
That's
some of
right,
that.
you're right.
That's
Yeah.
part of the
You're
minutes
right.
from the
Yeah,
last meeting.
that's a,
I apologize.
It also talks about understanding the construction, I'll leave this with you, understanding the construction process. So as Melinda was saying, the construction process compresses the ground. It will change the runoff, and also it'll change the hydrology of the wetland. The compaction and removal of vegetation. The wetland would be less able to absorb nutrients, filter contaminants, and would result in increased erosion and runoff. So that's a concern of the construction. So I'll leave this for you people to read, but the major takeaway from it is that placing solar arrays in wetlands is highly discouraged, and every effort should be made to place them somewhere else. So I'll leave this with you. I don't know if it can be submitted.
no,
Please give it to
definitely.
the agent, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, that's good to have.
And,
Just a quick comment with reference to what you're saying. This particular area you're talking about, meaning the entire park, talking about the entire park as a whole, you're talking about finding a place in that park to put the solar array that is not in wetlands. That is difficult at best. Literally, everything that isn't built on already is wetlands.
There is one other option, I'm not sure.
I'd like to hear it.
What, how everybody else would feel about it. It was suggested to me that if the parking lot is paved, then solar
Canopies.
carports could be utilized.
Exactly.
Solar carports can have water management system integrated into it, which will catch all the stormwater, and the gray water can be used throughout the park.
Right.
And they don't lose parking spaces.
Yeah.
So that's an option. And I took a couple, in case somebody wasn't familiar with them, I took a couple pictures. Eversource has them in their parking lots.
I have a copy of the stuff that you sent to Stephen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have that.
The MBTA is selling this in parking lots for the T up in Hingham.
Yes. I know Whole Foods does it. There's a lot of them showing up.
So
That would alleviate the runoff if the water management system was integrated into the
Right.
solar carport.
Right. Well, it would go, the posts that support the solar frames would also serve as downspouts and
Correct.
into the ground, and then feed into a system where the water would be collected and filtered.
Right.
Right.
If I may add to that, a few years back, when the new entrance was being put together,
Uh-huh.
we had a neighborhood committee that was made.
This is the,
And we also had someone from the town that was involved. We agreed at that time, we would have no obstruction in the parking lot from our homes. So like, we wouldn't be seeing anything that was in the parking lot, like carports or whatever. It was going to be an open area. And that was an agreement that was made with all of us.
Okay,
So you
so
wouldn't want the carports.
what do you caught between a rock and a hard place here? Because this lady's talking about putting carports in and you're saying don't.
We would still see the solar panels from the parking
No, we
lot.
wouldn't.
No, we wouldn't. I mean, solar panels can be put on buildings. There's many buildings in that, inside Edaville.
They're-
Yes.
They could be put on roofs, they
Yeah.
could be put up in a lot of areas. It doesn't have to be the other saying it is now.
But that's
Whether,
not-
I don't know whether they would work as well on the buildings, but it's a question to be raised. And I'm sure that Mr. Deli would look forward to that, because what he wants to do is he wants to save some money by generating his own power, which a bunch of us would like to do. And it's,
And just to clarify, the power being generated is only for the park.
this is what we've been
Yep,
told.
that's what they-
It's not being
Oh, it's gonna get
sold.
sold back into the grid. What are you gonna do with the power when the place is closed? You don't unplug it.
It's on, he's on twice, I've got it on.
It's gotta get sold back into the grid. You can't shut it off once you turn it on.
You know,
not up
if
to
you
us,
take a look at it, you know,
Yeah, that really is planning board issue.
These are all
again.
planning board questions. They're great questions, but they're really planning board questions.
On the drainage,
Yeah.
on the wetlands,
Yes.
if I may.
please.
You made a mention today that it's more like a pond. It's always a pond. That's how high the groundwater is, which is why the underground system isn't gonna work ultimately. Because the groundwater is too high. That's just the way it is. That's why this lady's backyard is full of water. That's why this lady's backyard is full of water. That's why it runs across the street, under the street, onto private property, because the groundwater has no place to go. That was always a problem at Edaville, and it became exacerbated, but when he strip cleared the hill and took all that other land out, now all that additional drainage that could have seeped into the wooded area is all open lot now. So the water had no place to go. When you've only got this much to go before you hit the water table, it doesn't take a whole lot to fill that up. And this is the problem down at the bogs.
This is something you have to bring up in front of the
But the bog
planning board.
issue is also the
But the
bog
bog,
issue.
the bog is, what we're here to do is to decide whether we want to put passive solar on a bog. This is what we want to talk about. I don't want to talk about the rest of the parks there, I really don't. I want to concentrate on this so that we can get it settled. Please, so let's try to stay in this area and see what we can do.
And my only suggestion to this board would be to hold this thing all tabled until you have a farm plan and a construction detail of what they're gonna do to those wetlands.
And also, until the planning board figures out more about the drainage situation.
That would be
Yeah.
my 2 cents worth.
I had no idea it was so bad down there at that end of the park.
There was a lot of water there.
There was a lot of water today when we were there, and a lot more than the last time we were there a couple of months ago.
That photograph, the photographs
I
that
got
you,
video.
ma'am, that you brought
Sure.
in were,
Yeah, actually.
Impressive. yeah, they were
Can't you guys
impressive.
make a decision about the wetlands,
Right.
though? I mean, make
I
a
beg your
decision.
pardon?
Can't you make a decision about the wetlands, whether that should be disturbed or not?
Right.
Well,
Actually,
to-
what we're suggesting doing is not going to vary the wetlands per se. It may actually improve the condition, but
I'm sorry, what?
it may actually improve the conditions, but it's not going to change. That groundwater,
I'm sorry, you're putting solar in the wetland will improve it?
it may.
How?
Simply by the fact that opening the channels where those tubes go in to support the panels will lead to a system where water goes down through the ground more. Bogs are layers of clay and sand so on and so forth. And the reason that they don't drain better is because of the sand and the underneath that, the clay. It's important to have the clay there because when they're cranberry bogs, they want to control where the water is. They want it to stay there during the winter at certain times, and then other times they want to drain it. But this all means that those channels have to be kept clear so that when they want to drain it, they get the water off. When they want to fill it, they plug those drains, those connections up, and they fill it up with the water and keep it up. Of course, they deliberately flood it sometimes in order to hold back the crop in the spring.
You're a conservation commission.
Yes.
And so conserving the land should be your primary, solving other people's planning board problems isn't really, that's why you're getting a lot of confused responses.
Right.
You guys need to focus on the issue of the wetlands, disturbance of the wetlands, or non-disturbance of the wetlands.
Well, that's why I was trying to tell everybody, let's concentrate on this.
Right. Within your board, you seem to have some.
But the bylaws state that anything that is built that takes away part of the wetlands property has to be replicated somewhere else. And this plan does this, because the only part of the wetlands that is going to be disturbed permanently is where the posts come up to hold the solar array.
That's right, and he's going to replicate that in the other little...
But we don't know that permanent damage won't be done during construction.
We don't know, and the fact that it was so wet today is why I brought up the questions about how is this construction going to be done without completely destroying what's underneath it. When we were out there about a year and a half ago for another question, we were walking on that bog in sneakers, and it was it was mushy, but it wasn't wet, and there were berries there. But seeing it today, I'm of the opinion I want to find out how they're going to construct this to not damage what is underneath there. As I said, Mr. Paddock's bogs next to the fire station, they put plywood down and ran all the machinery over that, and because the ground was firm enough to support that, and there was very, very little damage done. I don't see that same thing happening here the way this bog is today. So I think what you're looking for is what we are looking for as well.
I just think replication is a secondary, a less than perfect choice. I mean, I just understand why sometimes you need to, but here you have a bog that is doing, that is an active wetlands. So it seems to me that a Conservation Commission's purpose is to do everything it can to maintain that.
But DEP says you can replicate, the Department of Environmental Protection says you can replicate up to 5,000 square feet on a project. Am I right? 5,000? Yeah, 5,000 square feet on a project.
If the project
No
is
more.
absolutely necessary, it's...
Well, I'm just saying what the DEP says they can do. I agree with you that sometimes I don't think replication works, but it's allowed to happen.
I don't think you can take this bog and move it somewhere else and make it exactly the same.
I agree with you,
That's
but
right. You guys are
it
the
doesn't
front
say,
line.
it's what the DEP will allow and will not allow, and this is something they will allow.
Well, the DEP...
Well, not necessarily.
Well,
The DEP...
With the new...
5,000 square feet they will,
Wisconsin
for the most part.
DEP is strongly discouraging the doing of this activity as is
Yes, the new...
documented in their files.
Their new decision, but it took 4.5 years to get the paddock bog approved. And they were reluctant to do it, but it worked out, and apparently, so it is a different type of thing. It was a bog which was a wetland bog, but it was in very good shape. Aside from the reason they went to the solar is that there was so poor sun on the bog that the berry crop was very poor. And the grower said, can I try and do something else with it? And he came up with the idea to put the solar panels on it. And we said, well, let's try it. And we had to get a wetland scientist come in and check and make sure that the bog was a wetland. He took cores from a number of sites and so on. Then they figured out how much would have to be replicated from the number of posts that went in, and that was done in the back corner. There's an area that was dry and is now wetland. And wetlands actually can be replicated if they're linked with an already existing wetland generally. It's when you try and set up a wetland out of nothing, this is when they usually don't work.
And the replication that is proposed here is just expanding the width of the smaller of the two bogs, so it's still within the same wetland, which is required.
The back of his property where he owns all those other bogs, I don't even know how many acres, why, as a conservation committee, why aren't you saying, why don't you use those that are not adjacent to anybody's homes, that are not gonna affect the streets or the homes and their basements and things like that? Why wouldn't you say to them, why take this little teeny bog that's right near the street where all these houses are, when you own all these other bogs back there, and put your solar panels back there?
It costs money to transfer the infrastructure to bring the current up, putting poles in, so on and so forth.
So he changed his infrastructure with the assumption he was going to have this approved. Because he did all the construction, he did all the new transformers, all the underground work they did with the assumption they were gonna get this approved. So that's not,
I don't know if they've actually done that.
they did. Did
The
they?
original plan called for it to be across from the depot,
Mm-hmm.
behind the
Right.
depot.
Yes, that's true. That was
Or
it.
shorter line
Can
from
we-
here to
can
the
we-
Oh, the
power
other-
grid than
yeah,
is
the
from
Can
the
we
depot
let
to the
Art
power grid.
explain what was done?
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
No, we're just listening. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Art. Could you explain what was done for the electrical work that was done in preparation for the solar array?
There was new underground put in from where the property right adjacent to this bog, all the way through the park. The entire system was upgraded, new transformers put in. I don't honestly know if it was in anticipation of this or it was an electrical upgrade with this possibly in mind. And John's mind is, so far ahead of everybody else. This came to us, several months ago, long after he had done the other electrical improvements.
I believe it was at
not
the
our
last
decision.
meeting, it was stated that all
not
the
ours to
electrical
say.
work was
wetlands.
done
We'll use the wetlands.
to be connected.
Well, it's ultimately what's going to happen is to have it connected, but you have to understand that the original system that was there was eons old. I mean, that was part of the original infrastructure from Edaville.
But, it was just brought up to my attention that, the issue of whether it's here or someplace else, that has to do with the planning board. We gotta focus on this.
Right.
This is what we're focusing on. Now,
Right.
you can't start saying, well, we can put it in another section of the land. That has nothing to do with that's planning board, okay? If we deny it, maybe he'll do it. If we approve it, it's up to us to make up our mind whether we want it there or not. And regardless of many of the factors, we still have to decide whether he's gonna have it here.
It's your.
Now, that being said, there are bylaws in the town with reference to trees and so forth for privacy, so that you don't see them, so many feet of trees and so forth. But that, again, is also, the planning board is where you should be going.
We plan on attending, but we're.
But
here
you should
tonight.
look up the bylaws with reference to how many feet they have to have of natural barrier before they hit your property. That's a big nut. Big nut. Get it? All right, good. Now, that being said, let's work on this. Okay, let's just work on this. Let's get this settled. Now, do you have any other questions you want to add with reference to this, Mr. Chairman?
I don't.
Does anybody in the audience have any other questions with reference to this particular area?
Are you okay with no farm plan?
No, I'm not, and I'm not done, we're not done with that yet. We still have that
That's
to
my
decide
only
with
issue. I go back to what I said. I'd
ourselves.
like to see you postpone this until you have a farm plan.
Can I ask you a quick question?
We can make it our approval, subject to an approved plan, a farm plan. We can make
If he
that,
starts building it and you don't like the farm.
no, that's not the way it works. It's approved.
Then we can put a stop work order on
You
it.
wouldn't be able to do anything till we have the farm plan.
That's right, we can't do anything until.
Can't start any work
It's
till we
It has
have
to be subject, our approval has to be subject to an approved farm plan. All right.
We want to know how it's going to be constructed on the wetlands so we don't
Right.
destroy it.
I want to know that.
Yeah,
Me too.
so we wouldn't be able to start anything till we had all the information.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Wait a minute.
Absolutely.
And we had another question
No,
from,
I'm all set. I
Okay, now-
answered myself, thank you.
I do got one quick question regarding the farm plan. Does the farm plan address drainage?
Yes.
yes, it will, yeah. Yeah, it comes from the USDA down there, the Natural Resource
Yeah.
Conservation,
Yeah.
NRCS.
And it also will address maintaining this as a viable,
Right.
working cranberry bog.
Maybe plugging those culverts and things.
Right.
But in order to get this project off the dime and go back to planning, we have to make a decision with some issues that we add. Yes, ma'am.
There's also been a study has been done as to the temperature, the ground temperature, as a result of having a solar array above the cranberry bog. The ground temperature remains 5 to 7 degrees higher than the surrounding area. It's called a heat island effect.
Well, you might enjoy that because it causes evaporation, which might
Sorry?
help. I said you might like that because it causes evaporation, which would help.
It affects the ecosystem. I mean, if you have...
Of course it does, absolutely.
So that's another reason why a solar array should not be put in wetlands.
Where does this information come from? That I haven't heard.
It's a study that was done by,
Mac?
no, it was done by...
Mac is anti-solar.
It could be in the MACC thing, maybe.
I can get it for you.
Okay. Yes, Nancy, that would be necessary for us to consider it.
It was,
Was it with the MACC stuff that you gave me?
no, what was it was a university study.
UMass Amherst does a big thing on
I
that.
think it was University of Maryland. Oh, is that the one thing I didn't bring? Yeah, it's called heat island effect, where it raises the temperature.
What's it called, P Island?
Heat Island.
Heat-
Oh, okay, thank you.
Heat island effect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, it really makes common sense to think that any kind of, obstruction would have an effect on the ground underneath it.
So
And
that,
as conservation commissioners, you would be concerned about that.
Well,
As far as cranberries are concerned, and this is what we learned with Mr. Paddocks, is that the lack of sunlight affects the ability of the vines to grow berries and be harvested. It does not affect the ability of the vines to grow. And Mr. Paddock changed his farm plan to be harvesting berries, to be harvesting the vines for resale to other growers who were redoing their bogs. So that entire area maintained its usefulness as an active agricultural bog. And that's what has to happen here.
yeah, so the cranberries, being able to grow cranberries isn't the only concern with the temperature change. I mean, it's the whole ecosystem in the bog. I mean, it's all the flora and fauna in there. They rely on the certain temperatures, and if they don't, the temperatures change, it's going to affect all of it, not just where the cranberries grow.
This is ironic. I have never heard that before.
Yeah, right. But it doesn't matter
So,
on this one
no.
because it's, like you said, it had to do with the vines.
So it's important we get that information, though, so.
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm not ready to vote on this tonight.
Okay, so we're going to have to continue.
Yeah.
Wait.
So,
Who's this?
there's too much.
As much as I'd like to kick this down the road and get it to the planning department, I agree with you. We have to get more answers.
Well, it'll still go to planning because there
Well,
are
that's
other
what I think-
questions that
I
have
think-
to be answered.
Right, I think planning has to answer some questions before we can even do this. I mean, I can't wait to see what they come up with, the barrier that has to go between the bog and these houses. I think it's like 50 or 60 feet of woods or some stupid thing.
University of Maryland College of Agriculture. There was a study that was done by Mitchell Zuckerman, assistant professor from University of Maryland's College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, and colleagues from University of Arizona, University of Madison, Wisconsin, and the Nevada Center of Excellence have determined that solar panels absorb and reflect certain types of radiation, which prevents the soil beneath from cooling like it would under regular night sky. The ground temperature around the panels are 5 to 7 degrees warmer than the surrounding area.
Well, if it grows the vines, what they're talking about, then, and like it's going on down the street, that 5 degrees obviously doesn't do it any damage. That being said, I think we're gonna continue this anyhow, right?
I think so.
We have too many questions to ask, and you have too many questions to ask the planning board before we go much further here.
Well, I understand that.
Basically, I want to find out if the planning board's going to allow a solar array to begin with. Only because of the bylaws which you're going to read, right? Which I think you'll find very interesting.
It is interesting.
So, that being said,
Okay, so we need a motion to continue, I guess.
oh, great. Okay, here we go. I would ask the board that they accept the motion to continue on 0 Rochester Road, DEP number SE 126555.
I'll second
Five,
that.
That's, okay, 555.
Mr. Chairman,
That's it.
you have a second.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Yes, been moved and seconded to continue the hearing on 0 Rochester Road, DEP 126-555. All
So
those-
that, because do you want to get the farm plan and everything before
You want to get a farm plan?
farm plan?
Farm plan
Some kind
and
of
an
a
answer from the,
construction
Details.
plan,
Something.
details, how,
and also an answer from the planning board with reference to any barriers and so forth that are required by the town.
Yeah, the drainage situation also being, it's in terrible shape.
So we have quite a few
I'm
to
thinking
ask.
maybe the farm plan would address that.
Oh,
Right,
yes.
Some of the
yes.
drainage in
Yeah.
the,
Well, if we get the farm plan, look at it, and if it doesn't, then we can, ask it questions.
but the drainage may be an issue that's across the street off of that property, so.
Right, right.
It still has to be discovered
right.
why it's not draining, and it may not be solely on Edaville's property, it may be downstream that it's blocked up, but still, that
Yeah.
doesn't stop it from being an issue.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a channel that runs across under Pine Street. Do you know where it goes from there?
It goes into the reservoir that's right there.
Uh-huh.
Then that used to empty, they used to flood the bogs with that.
Oh,
There's also a drainage ditch that goes out into this kind of like the swamp out back.
Okay, which is the way we end it.
so I think
Runs
that's
around that
plugged
whole
up.
way, and actually dumps out into the swamps, and then the bogs, it ends up over on 50 Pine Street. So it goes all the way
That's a
around.
long one.
Oh, okay.
That's, yeah.
So
It's
it's
actually
connected to a
upstream.
whole
from
big-
it,
Now,
yeah.
is that always wet in the winter?
In there?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So there's not a lot of water flow, it's not
Yeah,
almost stagnant.
yeah. And that pond. Yeah, that pond, yeah. That pond goes up and down throughout the year. But the water up in the swamp, most of the year is pretty full.
So it's connected to a big
Yeah.
wetland system.
I would,
So it is probably all clogged up.
Yeah,
Well, sounds as it's gonna have to.
Backs up into fog.
yeah, I mean,
Bring
if the
Corps of
reservoir goes
Engineers
up
to
and
do a
down.
wetlands, study.
well,
Yeah.
also, if you look at this, he didn't finish the topo up to the back of these people's property. I think that's important.
Well, I think it's flat,
I see it here.
but it's all flat, it's a bog.
Think it's all flat
Yeah.
right there? Okay.
Fairly flat, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right,
So, okay, so we're, did we take a vote on it? I can't remember.
Oh, we
Voted
didn't
to
vote.
continue.
We
Yes,
didn't
we
vote
voted to
on it.
continue.
Voted to continue.
That's all you gotta vote for,
Thanks.
based on those issues.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's it for tonight on that issue.
Continue to a date certain.
You know,
We're
we
gonna
don't- we don't
continue
have it-
at
we don't
such
have
time as
anything
we get a
scheduled
response
for
on your,
March.
on
But
your
when are you
farm
thinking the farm plan?
I was told it would take about 30 days to generate.
Why don't we schedule you to the second meeting in March tentatively?
The what?
Second meeting in March.
And we have nothing scheduled right now.
4 weeks
March
from
at all.
tonight,
Yeah.
I don't know if it, I
21st.
don't know if you get all the answers by then, will you?
Well,
The
we
planning
continue
board?
it
Hopefully
again.
the farm plan, that's what we're
We'll
waiting on.
continue it again.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
You folks
Okay,
always
so-
catch,
so
it'll be
it's
the,
going till- when are we
the
gonna do
third Wednesday in March.
All right,
that it's
third Wednesday in
continued
March.
to.
All right.
March 21st, 4 weeks from tonight.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
All right, March 21st.
So,
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Conservation meeting at 7 o'clock. Period.
Okay. So we come to 4A Wenham Road.
Wenham Road. Well, we're gonna
Oh,
keep
let's
no.
go for it. Go
Ready to
for
go to
it.
bed. Let me take a nap.
Getting to be like the good old days. We didn't get home till 10:30.
in the good old days, we'd be in here till 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Mr. Cirque, I was hoping you'd have printouts from those samples that you
Yes.
presented. Okay,
I'm going to address them.
okay. But are you going to give us copies?
Thank you.
I believe I sent them to Brooke with the request
Yep.
that she send them all to you.
I did.
Yeah, oh, but I'd like to get a hard copy.
I think I have one.
Okay.
I'll give you mine.
One.
Okay, well, no, not when you're done, when you're done.
Okay, great.
Yep, I have a hard copy too.
Yes. It should, just like with maps, we should get hard copies of them for the members to have while we're regarding it.
Okay.
All right, so, is this the last one of the night?
It's evidentiary paper.
I'm praying.
Okay.
Are we ready to
Yes.
rock and roll?
Rock and roll.
Right.
All right. For the record, my name is Rich Cirque, and to my right is Jamie Emerson, who is the manager of the LLC that owns the property. And to his right is Bob Morse, who's here in behalf of Jamie Bissonette, in behalf of Zenith Engineering Consultants, who did the plan that's to the
Yes.
right of Mr. Morse. Mr. Forbes.
Force. Okay.
Sorry. I submitted materials to you in advance of tonight's hearing in response to the comments that I heard when we were last before you 2 weeks ago. And the first documents that I submitted to you were recent cases in which the Conservation Commission has issued orders of conditions for single-family dwellings and improvements within the 100-foot buffer zone. And the first example I gave you was for 32 Bow Street in Carver, in which the entire building is within the buffer zone, as well as retaining walls and parts of driveways, all within the buffer zone. And this order of conditions was issued a year ago tomorrow, February 22nd, 2017.
May I don't mean to interrupt, is that within the 100-foot or 65-foot?
100.
It's within the 100-foot. It's entirely within the area between 65 and 100, just like the case before you tonight.
No, this case is also within the 65, sir.
No.
The
But keep going.
building is entirely,
Yeah, but in order to hold that building up, you gotta do a lot of work in the 65-foot zone, sir.
well, there's,
That's it. Next.
Mr. Dempsey, just listen to me for a second.
I'm listening.
Do you have the Bow Street plan in front of you?
Nope. I know the
I
plan.
have the,
I know the site. Unless
Perhaps
you
you-
changed it from the last time.
Perhaps you could just give
Bow
Mr.
Street.
Dempsey a copy of the
one back
Bow
by the
Street
box.
plan.
I have it, right?
It's right on the front. It's
It's in
after the first,
very front, first.
it's after the first
Oh,
pink
it is,
sheet.
okay, I'm sorry, yep. Wait, Bow Street's the one near the bog.
Oh, I know, I'm very,
Yeah.
very aware of it.
Yeah,
It's the Shepherd Walker.
yes.
The house is entirely within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Right.
The
That's the one with the
driveway
bridge that goes through.
is partially within the 65-foot no-cut zone. The retaining walls are partially within the 65-foot, the 65-foot no-cut zone.
This is bog.
And this house is bonded to that bog. It's a joint, and that is this is why we allowed it. This house is the lot on which this house set is considered part of the bog, basically. That's why it's sitting there, and that's why we allowed it.
What do you mean it's part of the bog?
It's the property is a unit. The house and the bog are together. They're not going to be separated.
Well, in this particular case, the house is on a lot on which there are wetlands that are within the lot. I don't understand the distinction. The wetlands are as much a part of the lot in this case as they might be in the case of Bow Street. And the fact is that I heard at the last hearing that we've never allowed a house within the 100-foot buffer zone. And this is an example in which the entire house is within the buffer zone, and parts of driveways and parts of retaining walls are within the 65-foot
You're
no-touch zone.
absolutely right.
The difference on this lot, sir, is it's very simple, is that the degree in which the lot pitches into the wetlands is dramatic. And in order for you to put the well in, put the retaining walls in and so forth, means the removal of some very serious trees.
Okay, I'll get to that in a moment.
I had a question, Mr. Sir. Does your client still own all three of the properties, or has he sold any of them?
Mr. Rosen?
I'll answer that. Yes, I do own them.
I was wondering if you might consider going to the zoning board and applying to change the lot measurements a little bit so that you have more room on that lot is wider, and you could move the house back and still have your 30-foot or whatever setback from the edge there.
If you look at the plan for the lot, you'll see that that has already been done in terms of lot line configurations. Let me just.
If I could say something just quick while he's doing that, is we did exchange some land to do exactly what you said. And when you walk down the street and you look into the lot, it appears to be way worse than it is, because the house is all the way over to the right side.
Yeah.
If you look at the topo and the grades of where the actual slab is, and coming off of the street, I believe there's about a 5-foot difference, is that right, to the slab? From 99 to 95. The road being 99, coming down to 95 in front of the foundation.
Yeah, you're 97, you're 99.
It's if you look over to the right when you're looking from the street, you'll see there's a knoll of land there. If you look to the left, it looks horrible. We're not even going anywhere around there. Just to answer that question.
To answer the question about reconfiguring the lots, Mr. Noun, that's already been done. This used to be a straight line, and the line was reconfigured by taking some land that was formerly on the adjacent lot and adding to it, precisely for this reason, yielding some land that was here and giving it to the lot next door. So that's been done.
I'm sorry that we couldn't have done more. In other words, so that the house could be further back from that gulf.
Yeah.
Well, the way I'm looking at it, we should be taking this, you can recite all the lots you want. That's your prerogative. However, I take it by lot by lot. I look at what the environmental damage would be to the site and to the environment on a lot by lot basis. Now, you can go through as many houses like this you want, but I'd just rather discuss the lot itself.
Okay, I'm just responding to the comment that was made, I think by you, Mr. Dempsey, last week.
No, I haven't been on this commission long enough to tell you that it was not me.
I think you said that you don't remember any case in which we've done that. Now, this may not have been during your tenure.
As far as I've been on the commission, okay? Now, I've only been on the commission 1 year.
Understood.
All right.
Understood, but I think there has to be some institutional continuity between board members as far as what commission policy is.
Well, our policy, sir, is to protect the wetlands.
I understand.
And we have a bylaw which also includes the 65-foot. Personally, I'm very strict about the 65-foot. I know we've built in within 100 feet. I don't know how many times we've done that. And you can, DEP, as you know, doesn't say that you can't build within 100 feet. It says you can build within 100 feet, providing you follow certain rules. Those are the rules I follow. Now, when it comes to the 65-foot, that's a bylaw of the town.
Understood.
Okay, and it's up to us to decide if you can build within that 65-foot, if it's not an environmental danger to the town and to the environment itself.
Mr. Dempsey, may I complete my presentation?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. My first example was a case in which a building was built entirely within the 100-foot. The second example is from 5 Lynbia's Path, Carver. Ms. Monroe, could you give a copy of that as well?
Yep. Is this one?
That's the second after the first pink piece of paper. And I don't mean to be argumentative, sir, I'm just trying to
No, I
make my
understand.
point.
I don't want you to think I came to this commission a year ago and not having any experience in this at all.
No, I can tell you have had a lot of
Years
experience.
over in Plimpton, for sure.
Yeah.
And I also have got a couple of MAC certifications, so.
I mean, I can tell by listening that you know the subject area very well. In 5 Lynbia's Path, which was done a little less than 2.5 years ago, you have a building that is virtually entirely within the 100-foot buffer zone, except for a portion that's beyond it. And you have a deck that extends from the house and a walkway virtually to the 65-foot line. And again, that was done a little less than 2.5 years ago in November of 2015. And then the third example, again, Ms. Monroe, if you could pass that along.
Yep. Oh, Crow's Nest, oh, yeah. Another great gulf.
This was at 1 Crow's Neck Road in Carver. This was done less than a year ago, in June of 2017. And this involved part of a house that's within the buffer zone, a walkout area that's totally within the buffer zone. And I'll come back to this in a moment to show you the topography, which was very challenging on this particular lot. And this, as I say, was issued less than a year ago. So my point, and I know every case is different, board members, I realize that, but my point is merely that what we're asking for is not unprecedented. What we're asking for is permission to build within the 100-foot buffer zone in a way in which others have been given permission as well. Now, if the particular concerns that you have about Lot 4A's site are of particular concern, and I understand they are, in spite of the reconfiguration of the lots that we've tried to accomplish to give ourselves more land, we're voluntarily offering to subject any order of conditions to some special conditions. And that's the next pink sheet that I've offered. And it states that immediately after stabilizing the 65-foot buffer zone, the following erosion control measures shall be implemented. And I'm going to ask Mr. Forbes to go through them in detail when I'm through. 4 inches of loam shall be placed in all disturbed areas and shall be maintained and replaced thereafter as required. All loamed areas shall be seeded with New England erosion control restoration mix for dry sites. And I've given you the specifications from the website that describes what that mix is. And finally, double net straw coconut biodegradable rolled erosion control blankets shall be placed over all disturbed areas and shall be maintained and replaced thereafter as required. Now, Mr. Forbes, could you go through what I just described, and perhaps you can place yourself on that side of the mat of the board so that the members can see.
I'll try to speak loudly too so you can hear me well.
So this is a blow-up of the plan that's been submitted, and we colored it up a little bit to make it easier for me to present and everybody to understand. The blue line that I've colored here is the wetlands line. The orange line is the 65-foot buffer, and the green line is the 100-foot buffer. So what Mr. Cirque was mentioning is the erosion control measures that we've implemented into this plan. And they include something that you already saw at the last meeting, the double row of hay bales, staked hay bales and silt fence. And that encircles essentially the entire disturbed area on the lot. That's the black dashed line you see. So the double row staggered hay bales and silt fence. The areas in this area here that goes out to where the well is going to be proposed is the area that's going to receive that engineered mix, the seed mix. So it's going to be any disturbed area in here is going to be blown and seeded with that engineered mix. And then that mat is it's a blanket made of coconut fiber and straw, and it's going to be placed over it. And that can handle. It's engineered to be able to stabilize slopes up to 1-to-1, and also it can stabilize slopes in a drainage channel as well. So we're not getting anywhere near that. In fact, these slopes, the maximum slope in this area that I could calculate was around 5-to-1. So much less than what that blanket is engineered to stabilize. And what the client is also offering is to use that blanket on the remainder of the disturbed area on the site. So even when you get out of the 100-foot buffer zone, we'll stabilize with that blanket and the seed mixture and the loam. So you've got belt and suspenders and another pair of suspenders here. You've got the double staked hay bales, and you've got the engineered seed mix, and you've got the blankets, the coconut fiber and straw blankets over all of the disturbed soil areas to stabilize those areas.
You were mentioning before the hearing about the protective measures you've just described and how they compare to what you've seen in 30 years of experience.
I'm new to this project, and I'm actually new to Zenith Consulting Engineers. I've been doing civil engineering for 30 years, and I can honestly state that this is the most solid and strong erosion control plan on a single-family house lot that I've ever seen in 30 years in practice.
The next exhibit that I gave in your packet was a voluntary covenant that Mr. Emerson is willing to grant to the town and to record at the registry, which will secure enforcement not only of the initial placement of these measures, but also the continued maintenance of the measures, binding upon him and his successes and interest, and it calls for annual certifications by a registered professional engineer for a period of 6 years from the date of issuance of a certificate of compliance following the occupancy permit issue. Now, the combination of the seed mix and the blanket and the covenant were not required in any of the examples that I went through, but we're offering them here because of our respect for your concern for this site and in a good faith effort to try to address those concerns. And in the materials, the specifications for the mix as well as a picture of the blanket are included. And I also included a copy of the covenant that I prepared. The next exhibit was the plan basically that Mr. Forbes just showed you with the limit of work, the blue line, the 65-foot buffer of the red line, and the 100-foot buffer line, which is the green line. I also included some pictures, and perhaps, Ms. Monroe, you can pass them along. I would have come along with paper copies, but I was hoping that, yeah, that you would bring them.
We saw, those are the tires that we saw on the front.
Mm-hmm.
The first picture is unfortunately of some tires, a whole bunch of tires that are on the property, with a company as big as Makepeace. They can't patrol every square inch of every piece of property they own, that's for sure. But the situation involving dumping, which is rife in rural towns throughout the Commonwealth, at least on this site, would be eliminated. The next picture, and I'll wait till Mr. Nowen passes them along.
Yeah, you're slowing things up.
We saw those.
I want to be able to see it while I hear the description.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Okay.
Yeah, I saw those. They're beautiful.
The next picture is the exact house. This exact model that Mr. Emerson would build on this lot if he receives an order of conditions.
I don't blame you.
But flipped the other way. With the garage on the other side. It's a mirror image, right? This is a mirror image? Because the garage is on this
Is it
side.
straight from Colonial?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I think we ought to hold up until Mr. Nowen returns.
There's more up here. Go ahead. If you don't die, I'll grab one.
Hey, Jamie, is the actual number
Well, in
59 or
balance,
57?
You know what? They did put it on
I
the
saw
permit.
59, and then I think I saw a 57.
I think it's 59, because
It's
the
59?
one next
That's
to
what
it
Peg
is
told me,
57.
okay.
No.
Yeah.
You know that.
59.
59, okay.
They didn't put any trees back. They just left it as a block.
Meet back live.
We're back live?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was quick.
The next document I submitted to you was the notice that I sent to the Board of Selectmen, to the Conservation Commission, to the Planning Board, and the Board of Assessors, because this land is Chapter 61A land. I just wanted to complete the record. I had to file notice of the intent to convert this land from agricultural to residential, or if I converted it to anything but agricultural. I had to send notice, and I did. And the document right behind it, by the way, the document right behind it shows the lot. Ms. Monroe, if you could pass along after the letter to the Board of Selectmen.
Let's see. That's for the
There is a plan.
61A compliance?
Yeah.
All that?
There's a plan of the land.
Oh, okay, right there, yep.
If you could just pass that down.
So here's all the,
61A stuff, huh?
that's what you're taking it out of 61A.
So who owned this, Makepeace?
Yes, Makepeace is the owner. JLK, which is Mr. Emerson's LLC, has it under agreement to purchase.
Jim Kane, oh yeah. That would explain the tires.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Those are a resource. Cranberry growers used to use these to stabilize banks.
well, gosh.
Oh, God, we have.
Are you saying they were put there intentionally?
Right along Route 58 here, where Dom Fernandez has his bog, his organic bog, and then house, and he wanted to buy some land and build another house. So he bought a chunk of land, the other half of which is now that Norfolk, this power, yeah. Anyway, in exploring the land, he found a pile of 800-plus tires covered by a tarp and by leaves that had accumulated over the years. It looked like a hill, but but it was used. And then the same thing we found when we went to the coal property first. On one day, we took 55 tires out of it, and then we went back and we got another 60 plus. And they were used in places to, as I say, avoid, try and slow erosion.
I can't believe that these, based on the pictures, were put there for that purpose, though.
No, they're probably
look-
dropped to sit there and wait, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And actually supply.
Yes,
Yeah.
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 It's amazing, but
What I was directing your attention to is the page after Exhibit A on the notice. This shows you Lot 4A, and it shows pretty clearly the lot line adjustment that's already been made between this lot and the lot next door in order to gain more room. So your idea, Mr. Nowen, was already incorporated into the plan.
right.
to its
Well, it's
great-
just not big enough, though.
Yeah.
Not enough of a change.
And right after that is the sign off by the Board of Selectmen, agreeing to waive their right of first refusal. And then the next page, of course, is the building permit, but we know that signifies zoning. It doesn't signify compliance with what this commission has the obligation to enforce.
Just the number of square feet.
Yeah, yeah. And that the house complies with setback requirements and minimum upland requirements and so forth. Mr. Emerson, to my right, is a person whose work is deservedly respected in this town. This town has many homes that he has built, and he has earned and he values his reputation. I have also included, I believe, some photographs of the crow's nest property road, which shows the steep topography on that lot. And I believe I've also included pictures showing Mr. Emerson's ability to deal with topography by means of the walls he's capable of building, and as you've seen here tonight, by means of the mitigation measures that he's prepared to subsidize in order to respect the legitimate concerns that the commission has. So, in summary, I would urge you to issue an order of conditions based upon the protective measures that he has voluntarily proposed to subject his lot to, beyond any that were required in the case of the three examples I cited to you. And they include the monitoring by way of the covenant that I submitted to you. And I think if you're to issue an order of conditions with the additional supplemental conditions that we're voluntarily offering, then you can legitimately say to the next person, unless you do what Emerson offered to do, we have a right to say no to you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to address
Please do.
the three examples that were presented. I will go in the order in which they were presented. As far as 32 Bow Street, I was on the commission for all three of these.
Oh, okay.
All right. As far as 32 Bow Street was concerned, as Mr. Nowen has said, this home is connected to the bog that it faces. If you notice from the plan that the house does face a bog and a driveway goes out to an existing bog path. The land was very flat. There was a slight incline away from the bog, but for the most part was very flat and was fairly clear from the 35-foot line all the way to the bog. We were very careful when granting this. to make sure, I believe as part of the order of conditions, that the owner of the home would continue to own the bog, and that was part of the condition to build it. So in this particular case, there was not a tremendous amount of damage that we could foresee, because most of the equipment going in was going in from an existing bog road over areas that had already been cleared. The only clearing was where the actual house went. So that were the extenuating circumstances on Bow Street. So, which is why we felt that we could do it. As far as the second one that you prepared on Linbia's Path, again, this is one house out of 5 that were built on this circle off of High Street, and not shown here nor mentioned was that a sizable amount of the parcel, of the full parcel, was put into a conservation easement. So, for that fact, and the fact that one of these homes was going to be affordable, I believe, and the fact that, again, the terrain was flat up until the back of the property line. There was no damage. You can see the proposed silt fence is just inside the 65-foot. There was no work done on the downslope within the 65-foot. Almost all the work was done on the uphill side and within the 65 to 100, and also that combined, the affordable combined with the conservation easement and the fact that there was very little or no disturbance to the steep slope going down to the wetland and the stream that runs behind that house was sufficient for us to make the ruling that we did. On One Crow's Nest Road, this home was built on a slope, but the slope almost in its entirety, I'm familiar with the house, actually. I've seen that. The slope itself was between the 65 and the 100-foot, and there was no incursion into the 65-foot house to build this. As a matter of fact, this property, when we got there, this property for the most part had been cleared. There were 4-wheel off-road vehicle paths all the way through this. There was very little tree cutting. As a matter of fact, the neighbor next door had almost set up a tree cutting factory in the front yard of this property. It wasn't his property, but he had sofas and a splitter and trees, well, downed trees, but not that he had brought in, not from this property. And a good 70% of the house itself was outside the 100-foot line. So because there was, again, no damage, no real taking of trees because they had already been cleared by the time we were asked to rule on this, and the fact that almost the entire house was outside, and there was absolutely no incursion at all for any kind of construction within the 65-foot, again, we said yes on that. So each one of these was different, and each one of these had an extenuating circumstance that we felt as a board would be in acceptable to what we felt was what the town of Carver residents want as far as protecting wetlands is concerned. We did not feel that the potential damage to the wetlands in these 3 cases was enough to warrant denying their construction. So
I appreciate that. And
Everything, there's a...
case is different.
Every case is different, and there's a different story to each one. So from a standpoint of these three, and yes, there are two of them where the houses are within the 100 feet, but there were reasons, and we did not reach these conclusions easily.
I'm sure you
I have to say that. And
that's why we're offering these special conditions here, in order to try to make up for whatever deficiencies that you feel this lot still has. And I take no pride of authorship in them. If you have another idea or a better idea, I'm all ears. But what we're trying to do is to be sensitive to the very issues that you have the grave responsibility to enforce by offering the covenant, by offering the mix, by offering the blankets. I mean, I can tell you this, that Mr. Emerson told me that he had been aware of the Crow's Nest property and he walked away from it because it was too tough for him. He didn't think he could do it.
I was under contract on that property, and I totally understand from a plans perspective, but as a builder and looking at land, and when you have a drive-under garage and you know all the math to it, I looked at that and I ended up pulling my contract back because, I mean, we both know it's almost 18 feet of elevation. If you go over there and look at it right now, it's just a horrific bank going down to the bottom of the hole. I seen all the bike paths, and they did the wrong thing by somebody going in there and pre-clearing some land. And, we don't ever do anything like that. Maybe if that was the case, ours would look better. But I ended up saying, I can't do this. They're never gonna want this. And then you guys approved it. And I didn't look too good because they said, I told them I don't think it could be done.
So there are certain properties that Mr. Emerson is willing to walk away from.
yes, but again,
Miracle of miracles.
Shocking as that might be. And that was one, all right?
Yeah.
But he thinks he can do a good job and do the town proud on this site if you'll let him.
We almost got hit by a dump truck bringing fill in on that one Crow's Nest Road. He almost went over the lip after dropping his load.
Really? Were you out on the sidewalk then?
Yeah.
That's not the time to do that.
No.
Plus, ironically, it was the infamous brothers of Carver, what's their name? The gentlemen who are druggies.
And if I could say something through the chair, one other thing, regarding the well, if you walk where the well is gonna go, which is to the right side of the land of that property. So this is all high right here. It's all high. It's dry, obviously, all the way down to the wetland, but if you come in this way, if you look, there are big trees, but there are a lot of small trees. And because in Carver here, we do a 4-inch well most of the time because of the aquifer is so good, he's only got a 1-ton truck. So all this land with this lot is just gonna be protected indefinitely if it goes through, because anyone up here that comes in on that dirt road could never, now it'll be trapped. They could never include that with the dry piece up here. So I'd be protecting all of this wetland here. It's unusable. It's all unusable. And what I would do is when we came in with the well, is we would literally just spot take out the trees that we could sneak them down in there. And then when we came back out of there, we'd come in the next day and we would clean that right back up. We'd backfill, put the line in, clean it back up, and I can promise you by taking the overburden and putting it to the side and we do things the right way, and that's what I'm known for. And the next day we would drop the line in and get it up into the work envelope. The well would be there, the line would be there, and we would backfill this, and I would welcome the board to come out for a site walk to say, you can see that West End Drilling will drill that well, and I'm not even kidding you, in 2 hours, it's drilled. if you know, I mean, he does all of our wells.
Yeah, they're good.
He's a really reputable guy. He would drill that well, he leaves out of there. As soon as he leaves out of there, I have my guy, instead of the big excavator come in with a mini excavator, low impact, dig down 4 feet, get it up into this, backfill it all right in, we're never going back there. And that's done. This is the lowest impact I see of the site. I've done, over the years, I mean, we gave the 3 cases, but we don't want to bore you to death. I've been here for 10 years, and I've done many times that I've been inside the 65 and 100 with houses with worse sites. I really don't consider this, I think this site, when you're going to look at it, you're looking at it from a very bad view. It's because it's a garage under, it's not as bad as you think. I'm over in Berkeley right now. I have 10 feet and I have 30 feet behind me down a hill. And we are placing rocks on a 22-foot embankment. We know what we're doing. I have absolutely no worries about anything ever even getting to the silt fence, even making it there. It won't even make it there. But it will all be in place and it will never get around it. And we would leave it in place. We wouldn't pull it back out. We just leave it, let it do its thing.
Would you be willing to have an order of conditions subjected to the condition that after the well is in, there be a site inspection before you could go any further?
I would be open to all of that because it's about good reputation and good standing. I mean, I had a very good reputation with Sarah Hewins. I prided myself on doing the silt fence the right way. She loved it. A lot of people just slap it in there. You know, we get a little mini excavator, we dig it down, we put the flap in, we put the 6 inches of loom on, we put the hay bale, and she wanted every stake down to 4 inches, if you remember, you know, and we do it right. And you don't get much of a reward from it, but she was very happy. And I mean, we've had to do 800 feet of the stuff. And 110 High Street would make this lot look like a piece of cake that was approved in Carver. I didn't do it. I buy the land. It was already through the approval. But I seem to always kind of look like the bad guy when I'm coming in with stuff, you know. But this is not a hard lot. I mean, that's my opinion. I totally understand it. That's my opinion. I know this lot is a piece of cake lot for me. This is very easy. I got one of the, if you go down on Center Street and you see my site guy, the way he does his walls, Tim Dempsey, I did the Montello Road lots. You might have seen the walls. Yeah. We got good, you know, the feedback with our site guy does these beautiful walls. We can change elevations like nothing instead of having embankments all over the place. And I will say there's a lot of people that can't build walls. And one of them is, look at Crow's Nest. It looks like it was dumped there with a wheelbarrow. Now, if you guys came and held me accountable, I would be red in the face saying, this is what I'm hoping is going to hold this 18 feet from sliding into the water hole at the bottom of this hill. And I do it the right way. I do a really nice wall with the paper, and then I drop that grade behind it. And that's how I'm doing one in Berkeley right now with the reputation of that from other jobs. I'm not trying to overpump myself, but I think this is honestly being looked at like it's a really, really tough deal, and it's not. If you look at the grade of the slab of that house to the grade on the street, it's not a big deal.
My concern is not the placement of the house, it's the damage that has to be done to build the house from the back, from the side facing the trees that have to come down there, the regrading of that. If you look at the other 3 examples that were given to us, there was virtually no touching of anything within the 65 feet, other than a small retaining wall to go around the driveway on Bow Street that went out to an existing road. That was the only thing really that was within the 65 feet. The other 2, there was nothing happened within the 65 feet. There was maybe 5 feet of where the silt fence was within the 65 feet, but no heavy equipment, no clearing of trees. So that's.
Suppose you take a site inspection after the well is in, and you survey what's been done,
Unless,
and then see whether more needs to be done in order to address that concern, Mr. Moore.
I personally am less concerned about the path to the well than I am the
house
where-
itself.
the land right behind the house where it starts going down the slope. I'm sure that where the well is, that can be, as Mr. Emerson said, that won't be touched again once the pipe is in and the well is in. And, I'm assuming that will just,
Talking about this area, the orange?
yes, I am. That area there, it concerns me that is, if it were me, I would like that to go back to nature and let the trees go right up to the foundation.
Yeah, I can't do
That's kind of,
It's random, there's some bigs
I
and
asked him what the tree
some...
cover was in the orange area.
yeah, it's hit or miss, there's no
Yeah.
question about it. And we walked to the site, we walked down the hill to the edge. It's, putting a lawn in there kind of, to me, defeats the purpose. And what that does is it invites the homeowner to go out there and put in a swing set. Or, I know you're going to have a covenant, but there's no covenant that's going to keep children from if there's a lawn there, from going out there with their toys. And that's what I'm concerned about, because that really is the crucial area, the 65 feet. And it's particularly because it's on a slope that, in every single case, gravity wins. So things that are there will eventually find their way down the hill, whether they're toys or balls or
The house.
well, not the house. I'm not concerned
Yeah,
about
no.
the house falling. I can see the topography. It's just that I'm
Shrinking it
It's,
down.
I think the presentation of the house is well done. The issue I have is with the occupants after. That's the big nut for me.
That's why I offered the covenant, in order to make sure that it
Covenant's
doesn't,
gonna work.
that it doesn't dissolve.
That's not gonna work.
So it requires an engineer's certification, and it allows for enforcement.
Do we have a copy of the covenant?
6 years.
Yes.
Yeah, for 6 years. It's a 6-year covenant. After that, God knows.
What about if you were to, what's your thoughts, Mr. Moore, about putting some trees back in there?
Well, I think anything that makes it natural. I mean, what you want to do, because it's on a hill, the water's going to flow down there. You want it to get into the root system. You want it to be cleaned out. You don't want it on the surface. You want it to get, the way it is now, there's a lot of undergrowth and there's a lot of tree roots. They're probably all woven together. And that's a natural filter.
It holds that hill.
And it holds the hill. I think the placement of trees back there is certainly better than maintaining it as a lawn. I think that the things that Mr. Forbes suggested as right after construction to hold everything in place is fine, but I think that that should just be a placeholder, and that it should be part of the covenant that this house doesn't have a backyard. And that, one of the questions I asked at the last meeting was there an egress from in the back, and there's not from the underground garage, which is good. But it concerns me that it just seems to be too much of an enticement, if that's a lawn, for it to slowly expand over time, even not on purpose. Just, it could happen. So, it concerns me that there's so much incursion into that 65 feet, even though the structure itself is not there. That's what's bothering me about this whole thing.
How about if we would propose to revegetate, like you say, almost replicate the wood? I mean, you talked earlier in the earlier meeting about the 5,000-foot maximum replication area that you can do for wetlands impact. How about if we were to replicate the area in the 65-foot buffer zone, essentially behind the driveway? In other words, replicate what's there now by planting trees and whatnot. We might even be able to do an inventory of what's there now and match the number of trees that are back there. That would take away approximately half of your concerned area. I mean, they're gonna have to have something behind their house to be able to put a barbecue out there or something. But
Why?
maybe if they were to...
Why would they have to do that? Why couldn't they do that on the side of the house or in front of the house?
That's what we're talking about.
I'm just...
Yeah, see, that's
Talking
my
about
concern.
human
That's what's gonna
nature.
happen.
We're dealing with human nature. That's the
That's what's
problem.
gonna
That's my concern, that the barbecue becomes a patio.
So what
And
I
then it
ended
become-
up doing with the plan is the deck that was originally there.
Right.
I moved it to the opposite gable. It still made it within the setback and outside of the 65.
Yes, we saw
And I put
that.
a door inside of the house that would go out to it, so their barbecue would be up on the deck, not even on the land.
Now, is the deck in the 65-foot? I can't see.
No, it was, originally it was, but he took it out.
They took it out?
There's
It was on
no
the back, and we
structure.
moved it around to the other gable,
We removed-
outside of it.
We removed all the structure out of that 65-foot buffer zone.
It was here.
Yes.
Yeah, look at that.
Got rid of it.
Yep. We took it out of the back here, and we put it right here. It fit here, outside of the 65 and within the setback.
I saw that, between the first and second plan.
But if you do an inventory of the trees that are there, what could you, let's follow that idea. If you take an inventory of the trees that are there now, what are you proposing?
Number of species or,
Red maples will probably take very
That's what I
well.
was thinking, red
pretty-
maples. Put
it's
red
actually-
maples in there.
Yeah, we're gonna
Pretty
we
thin,
do this
and
justify
I think a
caliper.
lot of that area, the excavator arm, because we're not projecting a lot into the area. I think the excavator will be on the outside the 65, reaching in. And I think on the area that, I think on this area here, once the wall goes in here, I think a lot of this, we might not even have to touch, but it will be on this plan here, but we may not even have to touch it. And then we could leave what we need to, but to replace this area with natural, what you just suggested. In this area here, if we walk this area, this piece that we're looking at, it's pretty open. You can walk through there. There's some saplings, but it wouldn't be hard to come back with a plant, do a planting list that we would keep them a little bit away from the back of the house, and fill this back in and stabilize everything.
Take a look at that map. Take a look at that.
Yeah,
Which one?
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, the canopy is gonna...
Yeah.
Sue doesn't address no taking the trees out, not doing anything here, but it's grass.
When would the trees in the
I knew it should have hated before it came.
when the house is being built?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So you could have two site visits, one after the well is dug and one prior to the occupancy permit, once the house is built.
Gentlemen, do you have any more?
Pardon me?
Do you have any more to say?
Oh, what I was just suggesting is two site inspections, one after the well is done. And secondly, a second site inspection prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, where you could inspect the orange area and indicate what kinds of plantings, red maples or otherwise, were needed in light of what's been done to build the house, so that the tree cover that would protect that area is provided for.
Do you have anything else?
I don't really write this down, too. Do you have any more, sir?
No, I don't.
My only comment would be just on the, if there is going to be a condition of red maples, could we just leave it to some type of tree, just because the red maple, the canopy can get so large that we wouldn't want it to overgrow over onto the house. You know what I mean? If we put a red maple 15 foot away from the house,
Yeah.
the canopy would then be in the house in 30 years.
Okay.
So,
Mountain ashes, try mountain ashes.
yeah, yeah,
Slim?
something with, narrower and.
Right, much narrower, yeah.
Yeah,
They attract a lot of bird life and
exactly.
very good, yeah.
If you feel that the term of the covenant needs to be extended, that's within your discretion as well.
Ready? To the board, I am asking to close the meeting on an NOI for 4A Wyndham Road, DEP number SE 12656. I'll need a second.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chairman, you have a second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close the hearing for 4A Wenham Road. And all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's passed, so the hearing is closed.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to call a vote as to the building of a house on lot number 4-A Wyndham Road, DEP number SE 12656, NOI.
Do we,
Second for the vote?
does the agent have any comments to make? Do you?
Oh, we need a second on the vote first.
Yeah.
So your decision is to,
I'll second that we vote.
Okay, there we go.
What are you voting for?
No, you have to make a motion
I'll make a motion, I'm sorry.
to vote yes or no.
To vote yes or no. The motion to vote yes or no on lot
We don't need a motion.
4A Wyndham Road,
oh, okay.
DEP SE 126556.
But the motion has to be in favor or against. You can't make you'll make a
I
motion
know,
to
I was
have a
hoping that
vote.
I wouldn't have to make the motion in favor or against. I
Yeah,
want
you
the-
have to decide one way
I
to
wanna vote-
accept
I wanna
what
vote
they,
from-
you know.
I vote, okay, so I'm setting to vote against.
Okay. You're moving to vote against.
Vote against.
To deny the order of conditions.
And deny the order of conditions, absolutely.
I'll
Do you have
I'll
any-
second that.
Okay. Do you have any,
Now what?
Tom, just before,
Well, you know, I mean, I understand all your concerns, and they've come up with some good things to try to,
remedy them.
remedy them. But, I mean, and I agree with all the, the other projects were not like this one. You made the decisions on those based on other, not the same issues. I mean, it's when you go on that lot, it doesn't look like a, it doesn't look like a good lot to build on. I have to admit that. But I know Jamie does nice work, so I don't know.
I just gotta say this, it's not whether the contractor does good work or not.
Right.
It's whether we'll accept what's being done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the contractor does a good job.
Yeah.
That's not the issue. So,
okay.
that being said, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would
We
like
have
to set-
moved, yes, we've moved and seconded to deny the issuance of a NOI. Okay. So let's, we'll just do a formal motion on that.
Right.
It's been moved and seconded to deny the issuance of the NOI for DEP SE 126-556 for A Wenham Road. All in favor, say aye.
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 Yep. Okay, and I'll say aye also. So we have three, yeah, any nays? No. Okay, three assenting to denying. Okay, so that's...
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm sorry your request is denied.
This goes back to Brooke.
Impacts. Deny, no, just deny the issuance of the order. They didn't accept the NOI.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they were happy.
And when I send these to you, feel free to
Yeah.
change what I say, you know. Sometimes they-
Hope it doesn't get us in trouble.
And I know, and then all the acronyms and stuff, I know, it's hard to keep
I hope it doesn't
track.
get us in trouble.
He's talking about a governor candidate.
Oh.
I just-
We have to adjourn.
I'm sorry?
To adjourn.
No, I think it was in the thing, yep.
I make a motion that we
Oh,
adjourn.
jeez.
Oh,
we
no,
forgot.
you want to adjourn already?
Part, huh? We're just gonna walk out. I'll
Aw,
second that
shucks.
motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. I didn't know if you said a motion to adjourn.